Hey, this is Charlotte.
And I'm Daryl.
And we are here again with another episode of Truth for Daily Living. So we want to say welcome to the truth. All right, so we have another set of guests. There are a couple as well. So we're going to get started with them right away so we can jump right into it right after this, okay? Stay tuned. All right, we're going to bring them on up to the stage. All right, we're bringing them up. We have Chris and Michael Bayas. How are you two?
How you guys doing?
We're good.
That's all good. Right. We're glad you decided to join our podcast, Truth for Daily Living. We are grateful for this opportunity. And today the topic we're going to be talking about is the importance of partner support. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I think they have a story to tell about partner support. Would you say?
No doubt.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So what we want to do is first introduce yourself officially to those who may be watching. Just tell us either, I would say, your profession, your number. Start with how many years you've been married, your profession, and the number of children you have. How about that? Anyone can answer.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we are nearing our 4th year anniversary this coming September 1st.
Woohoo!
Congratulations.
And so our profession, thank you. Our profession is I am a nutrition coach. We are co-owners of Iron Sharpens Iron Fitness, and he is an online fitness trainer and also a certified life and leadership coach.
Great. So how did you guys meet? I'm sorry?
We have 1 2-year-old.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So how did you two meet? We're just curious.
Oh, that's a fun story. Yeah, so I'm going to shorten it by saying the first day she met me, she threw up.
Okay.
Yeah, just throw it out there.
Yeah.
So I joined a fitness ministry gym here in Tampa, Florida, and he became my personal trainer. And as he said, the first day he trained me, I literally puked. And I guess that was a sign that I fell in love. It was puke at first sight.
That is funny. Okay. So from that moment on, it was just...
He became my trainer, and
the rest is history.
The rest is history, okay.
Well, that's a very unique story, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're not going to get into how we met because it'll be probably a long story, but it was kind of quirky too. We'll do that for another podcast. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have one daughter, right? 2.5. Before I jump to your daughter, did you guys, because we are marriage coaches, counselors, and so
it's beautiful.
Oh, there she is.
Look at her.
Ooh. So did you guys participate in any premarital? Hi, sweetie.
Hello.
Hi. Did you two participate in any premarital counseling?
Did you participate?
Yes.
Yes.
So actually, that was kind of the first thing we jumped right into when we started dating. We were both in a season of fasting, and we went to break our fast simultaneously, and this wasn't planned. But within the first 3 weeks of knowing each other, we ended up in a church next to each other. Again, not planned. Her friends ditched her. She ended up at my church. And, Holy Spirit says, this is your wife. This is your husband. And from there, I got the blessing from my boss at the time to date a client. First time I break that rule. And we jumped straight into premarital counseling with him about 2 weeks into dating. So we did 4 months of premarital counseling with him, and then we did an additional 3 months of premarital counseling
with the pastor from your church.
Yeah, so he wasn't the pastor from the church; he was my boss, but we just covered both ends because he was actually a pastoral clinical counselor as well.
Okay.
So
Well, that's great.
Through counseling, and when he first Yeah, when he first told me that he wanted to be my husband, he said, we will go through premarital counseling immediately. So I knew right off the bat that I was going to jump right in.
That's good. As you know, we're advocates for premarital counseling, being marriage counselors ourselves. We think it's so important to deal with what you can, at the beginning. I mean, nothing's perfect, but at least if you deal with the major stuff, if there is any, that kind of puts you on a good path. So our audience, make sure you go to enrichmymarriage.com if you need that. But we think it's just so important. What were you going to say, honey?
Yes, absolutely. Marriage is not for just grown folk, but it is for mature grown folk as well, right? And so that was very mature for you, and for you basically to make that determination that, listen, if this is my wife, then of course you made that initial plan to have premarital counseling. Not only did you have premarital counseling, you did it for 7 months prior to scheduling a date. A lot of people, they schedule a date first and then they do the counseling. And then the counseling gets in the way of the actual marriage date. You know what I'm saying?
You're laughing because it's true.
So you guys did it. You did it right.
That's
you
good.
You did it right, and you did it. I mean, you did it so maturely, and taking the responsibility that this is serious business. Okay.
Yeah, and for us, I'll just plug this part is that we met, we dated, we got engaged, and we had 3 sets of marriage counselors and married within 10 months. Now, that's not everybody's story, but that's how it rolled for us. But we had 3 sets of counselors, during that time because it was a serious thing for us because we had been married before in our case, and so we wanted to make sure, this is it. This is till the end. And I'm so glad we did it that way. So I commend you, as he says, for doing that. Now, one of the topics we want to talk about while we have you here is that you had that precious little beautiful baby girl, right? And what happened, sometimes for us as women, we go through, and I experienced some of this, we go through a season after birth. So you're pregnant for 9 months. It's this big hoorah if you're not sick, and you're just dealing with all these hormones and emotions. And we forgot to say she is a medical doctor. Please don't you got to include that. Don't discount that. I mean, everybody can't pass that test, okay? Go through medical school and pass that test. But women go through so much, physically. So what happened with you after you had your precious baby girl?
So after I had delivered, it was a traumatic 40-hour birth. I went through a C-section. She was going through fetal distress. And after I delivered her, I didn't feel like she was my baby. Every time I held her, I looked at her and I thought, is she really mine? And it just didn't click. So I went through a lot of postpartum depression. And a lot of times people say, it's just baby blues, you'll get over it. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case for me. After 3 months, I had attempted suicide, and I took the pills that was given to me from my doctor, and I overdosed in front of my husband and my daughter. I took the last bottle of 60 pills, in fact, in front of my daughter, and I held her hand and I said goodbye. And that was the moment that was the deepest, darkest moment of my life, but it was also when the Lord had restored me. So postpartum depression, I didn't think was real, but unfortunately, I realized it was.
And even from a medical perspective, being a doctor, is that the reason why you didn't think it was real? Because you're like, oh, I understand how the body works. I mean, what was the reasoning? Why didn't you think it was real?
Well, a lot of times when you go through it, it's just basically watered down. People will say most women go through it, but then they get better. And it usually takes, a few weeks for your body to recover. But it just wasn't working that way for me. And it wasn't something that was truly a reality because a lot of my friends, they looked fine. A lot of my friends had their kids before me, and they didn't have any complaints. They all said they felt that connection immediately. It was love at first sight. So here I am feeling like, why isn't it happening for me? So the medical side of it, I will say, they don't prepare you. We really didn't prepare that part, the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think too, what was uncovered a lot in our premarital counseling was a lot of the post-traumatic stress she had already from her past. And of course, that will carry on, especially if you go through an event like this. It only, it makes it a higher priority that you seek the help because you have a bigger predisposition for something like that. So that was uncovered in our premarital counseling, and it was something that, I kind of knew coming in that, there are some things that, I'm going to have challenges with her with, and, I was just glad that I knew so I could prepare ahead of time.
So you actually did know, you saw a difference?
I did see a difference in demeanor and just, it's very nice because I'm also trying to help her as much as I could and take the brunt of everything else so she could bond with our daughter. But a lot of that wasn't happening initially. And, even through that time, she was already going through counseling for, her past. And it was just kind of a perfect storm. There was kind of no way to avoid it. I was just glad I was there because I was able to drive her to the hospital immediately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, that is amazing. I know.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I was just saying I was going through counseling already because I had a traumatic childhood growing up. And so our premarital counselor told us that I should go through counseling for that reason. So it was preparing.
Together.
Yeah.
So that wasn't even premarital counseling. We were already married, and she had a counselor for about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So what steps did you take to actually recover from the depression? And then also, is there a battle today that you have to contend with?
That's a good question. So what I had to go through was I did take medication for it. I knew that was necessary.
Well, before that, you were Baker acted.
I was Baker acted. I was sent to the mental health facility, so I stayed there for 72 hours to get the help that I needed.
And that actually, she said she slept.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time she had 10 hours of undisturbed sleep, so she came back and she was in a much better position. It's amazing what sleep will do, because you think of a mother who's distressed with an infant, and you don't get a whole lot of sleep, and you add on the other circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the ability to tell anyone what I was truly feeling. I just felt like I needed to be super mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hospitalized. I got the medication that I needed, but I continued therapy. And I also worked on my nutrition and I exercised.
Okay.
Because I went from 112 pounds to almost 200 pounds at being 4'11".
Mm-hmm.
So my health was also at risk,
Mm-hmm.
not just mental health. So I took those necessary steps to work on me, and he was such a good support in allowing me to have the time on my own. He would always encourage me to go and work out and do what I needed to do for me. So I think the partnership, as what we're talking about, is so crucial, especially when you're going through a tough time like that.
Yes, I can remember when I had my baby. So what happened for me that was traumatic, my mom had just died several months prior. Well, I would just say a year prior to me even getting pregnant. So it was a hard place for me once I had my baby because I didn't have my mom. And so I remember, being very sad. So for me, it was a difficult place. And then not getting sleep. That's the norm, right? I was in labor for 41 hours with my daughter, first of all. Then secondly, my mom is gone. And then I'm not getting a lot of sleep because he had already taken off so much time from work like a week prior and then a few weeks after. So then I was pretty much on my own because everybody else I knew were working jobs. So no one could really help, as you know. So as a mom, when you don't have anybody that doesn't have enough sleep is already like in a very vulnerable place. But for me, I was breastfeeding. I was exhausted. I was so sad that my mom wasn't there. So I can only imagine, like you said, coupled with what happened in your childhood and now. Isn't that interesting how your childhood truly follows you? Would you agree?
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, the sins of the father are visited onto the son, and we inherit a lot of stuff unintentionally. But that's the fallen world we live in. So when we recognize it, it's we have a responsibility to do something about it.
Mm-hmm. What were you going to say, hon? Did you notice anything like after I had your daughter? You noticed something too?
The first 2 weeks, basically, I was in the house and I was preparing, food, cooking for three meals a day, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I was there allowing her to sleep as well because sleep is very important, right? And so, when I went to work for the first day back to work after that, a couple of weeks of being home. She was so saddened. I noticed this sadness. It was like, do you really have to go? And so during that time, once I got home, because of the fact that sleep she wasn't getting much sleep. So I get home, she said, here, can you watch the baby for a couple of hours for me? And I will watch the baby, and take care of her. And 4 hours later, I will wake up and she says, only been asleep for an hour. No, it's been 4 hours. Okay, because of the fact that, and the thing about it that she didn't take time out to sleep when the baby was sleeping. That was something that she had to learn on the latter end of the process, because of the fact that when the baby is sleeping, then the mama should be sleeping too. Okay, as opposed to being up trying to do so many things, right?
Go ahead.
That was a big thing too, because she felt a lot of pressure that she had to perform for Mariah and like try to do whatever she could for the household as well. Mm-hmm. So she felt like super mom, and the doctors had to tell her like, no, you have to sleep when the baby sleeps. Like, this is doctor's orders.
Yes. I mean, it's real. Yeah. I mean, we aren't super women.
Right.
I know a lot of times. A lot of women I've met, we are like, even though they say it's not real, multitaskers, and we think we're really not multitaskers. We're doing several things at the same time, but it's not necessarily accomplishing much. But it just feels like because we kind of can think about a lot of things at the same time, whereas sometimes men are just kind of like black and white. They're just like, this is what I'm doing, there's tunnel vision. And so I'll speak for me, I don't know about you, that's where part of that came from. Just still trying to do whatever I could, still trying to be a new mom, still trying to, like you said, keep the house in order, still trying to do things that I really shouldn't have been trying to do on my own alone. What do you think?
Me or Mikhail?
So I remember when I was just getting out of the hospital, we were in our little 500 square foot apartment at the time. And I would carry her with me, and I would try to do the laundry, try to do the dishes, try to clean, try to get everything done because I felt the responsibility.
Yeah.
We were also running our business at the same time.
And we were running our business at the same time.
Wow.
And we had just...
during the pandemic.
Yeah, this was during the pandemic. So we had just, I think we were really like 100% full force in the business. And I'm trying to keep everything together.
Yes.
I didn't know how to stop. And coming from my background as a medical doctor, you go. You don't stop. You keep going. If someone is sick, I don't take care of myself. I take care of the other individual. So that was my mindset. But I will attest to the fact that sleep was very important because the first night, truly the first night of being in the hospital, the mental health hospital, I remember telling the doctor that saw me the very next day, I said, I feel like a whole new individual because I actually got sleep. But I will say that going back to the partnership thing, it's a huge difference between an individual like me and having a husband that was so supportive and someone who is suffering from postpartum depression and they don't have a partner, a spouse to help them during this time.
Yeah, I think that is definitely an important point. You have to have support. I mean, I think people don't realize that having a baby is like almost a life-threatening thing in the sense, because you're birthing a whole nother human being into the world and all the weight that comes with that, physically and mentally and emotionally. It is a lot. And I think sometimes people coast over it. I mean, I have friends that have lots of children. Like I have one of my best girlfriends. She has 10 kids and she just breezed. I mean, when I say 10, I mean 10. Only one set of twins, I believe. And she has natural birth. She has a high pain tolerance. So it was like almost easy breezy for her. But for some of us, I only have the one. It was not quite as easy. I guess, like you said, it depends on what you've experienced, what you're going through at the moment. That makes a difference. But I think the point is we want to make that postpartum depression is real. It's not just, women being silly willy, being over, dramatic. We're not being dramatic. And I think it's important, like you said, to have the support system, even if you don't have a husband. There are cases, of course, where people have children and don't have but when you have a husband, it's so important and grateful. I know you are to your husband, me to mine, that they recognize the changes and they do the best to help us, right?
And it's important, just like Chris, basically, you were a great support to your wife. And going through those difficult seasons in time, how important was it for you to be there, even though that you probably didn't understand the extent or the totality of the actual depression, but you were there, okay? And you placed yourself as a support, and you wanted to be there for your wife, and you also wanted to see her pull through, that depression. And even though that she was trying to give up on herself, you would not allow her to give up on herself, and you did not give up on her as well. So how was that transition for you, and being there and also helping her, go from a level of depression to a place that, wow, I feel like I can live again?
Well, I couldn't do it on my own, for sure. Number one, of course, I lean on my relationship with God. And God led me through a lot of tears and a lot of nights of not knowing if I was going to have a wife or what that was going to look like after this incident in particular. But He also put a lot of good men in my life that were able to support me when I needed support.
That's huge.
Right away, my pastor was available, to me. The day I told him about it, there's several men in my church that are older, in their 70s, that they immediately took me in and just kind of helped guide me through this as well. And I can't underscore how important that was and how valuable that is.
Absolutely. And that's important. You're talking about a support system as well, right? Support system basically extends throughout the entire family, because everyone in the family needs some type of support, whether it's in the house or whether it's outside of the house, and that's important that you had men in your life that was able to undergird you and help you and to navigate you through this process as well. So there's nothing to take lightly. And then also you're talking about your relationship with the Father, the Heavenly Father, right? And so a lot of times there's many things that we cannot do without Him. And so it's important for us to recognize the strength. When we come to the end of our strength, I know there's a scripture that says, let the weak say that I'm strong. And then also it says, let the strong bear the infirmities of the weak as well, right? And so therefore you have someone else to help bear your infirmities during that season and time. And so those are aha moments right there, saying, wow, if this person hadn't been in my life, how would I have transitioned? How would I have made it through? Or, what can I do? What have I learned from that process? And then how can you help someone else, to navigate through that process as well, because you've experienced a traumatic and also a very emotional, experience with your wife. But and then for you, Mikhail, so you really gave yourself an opportunity to live again, right? And so how was that? And then how did you view Chris during that time when you was trying to give up and he was trying to console you? Was there like an inner war or battle that you were saying, don't, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead, answer that if you could.
So I had to make the decision to really get up. I think the part where I really decided to get up was, one, when I was in the hospital, when I was rolled into the ER, into the emergency room, and I screamed at the doctor and I said, I don't want to die. And then I think God made a way for me to draw closer to him at that moment. And he allowed me to see my husband in a different perspective, because I knew he was mad at me. He was mad because I did it, and I knew that there was a gap between the two of us, because you can tell, like, I made a horrible mistake and I was going to change his life without him even wanting it. Mm-hmm. And I remember I called him up and I said, hey, I'm okay. Are you able to come to the hospital? And he said, I'll be there. I'm talking to your parents right now. He's the one that had to break the news to my parents. And he said, I'll be there after I talk to your parents. And they let him in the hospital, and they allowed me and him to talk before I got sent over to the mental hospital. And I knew at that moment, I said, he's still very supportive. He goes, I want you to be healthy. I want you to get better. Know that I'm here for you, but I want you to focus on your health. And I remember feeling the sorrow, feeling the sadness that I knew I committed, one, a sin against God, and two, I committed a sin against my husband. And we needed to restore that connection between the two of us. Mm-hmm. Because even though he didn't force me to make any decision like that, I decided. It was a conscious effort to do that. But I knew that I broke the trust that I had with my husband at that time. So to answer your question, I knew that my husband was faithful. And then I saw him after I got out of the hospital. It was a beautiful moment, because you're stuck in this mental hospital with flat white walls and you don't have any ability to go out or anything. You're stuck, and you don't even know when you actually can be seen again by your family, because they monitor you all the time. And if one little tweak in their mind and they say, oh no, she's not able to go out yet, she's not good, they'll hold you. But praise God that I was healing, and the doctor saw that I was on the path of being recovered. So he allowed me to go. So when I finally saw my husband and he waited for me there and picked me up, and he gave me the biggest hug, and he said, I'm glad that you're better. Let's continue on. And he was just so much support. He had to take the steps forward. We started going through counseling again, and our counselor, we kept going through it. Our counselor said, Chris, this is the things that you need to do. They locked up all of the medication that I had, so it was controlled. They took a lot of the measures to make sure I was safe, I wasn't alone. Chris made sure that I had great support from other godly women. He made sure that I had sleep. He made sure that I took my medicine. I just knew that I had a blessing that I didn't want to take it for granted.
And one thing I just want to point out too was kind of in the midst of this, as I drove her to the hospital, I'm driving back home to go talk to her parents. I called her clinical psychologist, and I asked, because I told her what happened, and I asked, how do I address this? And, she told me exactly that, to be supportive, but, you have to make sure you lay down a boundary. You have to make sure you lay down a line. So, I was as supportive as I could be in the hospital, but I also told her this has to be it. This cannot happen again. For our daughter, I have to protect her, and this is the line. So if you cross this line again, for her safety, we're going to have to, live apart from you. And that was hard to say, but it was something that needed to be said.
And I took
a hard conversation to have.
And I took it. And I realized that he was true to whatever he was saying, and I needed to hear it. It was like taking another medicine for my own consequence, for my own actions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to know, I was going to say, if you had one tip or advice to give a woman who may be right now in the throes of this, what could you say? I would like one thing from each one. So from your woman's perspective and then from a husband, what could that be, that one thing you would tell them?
For me, if you are going through this, and if you are a Christian and you have a supportive, loving church, is one, ask for prayer. If you are feeling alone, ask for a woman that is at church that can pray for you and walk through this season with you. If you have family members that you can be open to, then have them walk through this season with you. I would say don't forget about your faith. Don't forget about your relationship with the Lord, because that was crucial, a huge key in my recovery. But I would definitely say don't feel like, and this is why I said I feel like it's not reality, that it's not real. It's because in my mind I'm thinking, it's just gonna get better, it's okay, and then I'm gonna continue to work like a train just to keep going. No, that's not how it goes. You need to take a break. You need to get sleep. And it's funny because that is the biggest key, is really rest in God and finding physical rest.
That's good.
And if you are married, be open about that with your husband and tell them how you really feel, and tell them what you need. Don't be afraid to ask.
I think on my end, definitely asking God to humble your heart enough to talk to someone and be able to put a plan in place. We had to put a plan in place of like, who were some of the safe people that she could call when she felt like she needed to talk to somebody. We had to, put a plan in place of, we both had to get an app that, monitors her and it tells me exactly where she's at in case I couldn't find her. We had to put these little contingencies in place, and we both had to accept them, and realize this was the current situation, but let's just have this and not need it, rather than, need it, not have it.
Wow, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, I got two questions. Okay, that's pretty awesome the way, and pretty amazing the way you actually came through this process here. One of the things that you said, Michaela, is that you broke Chris's trust as well. And if you can touch on that a little bit, of how you were able to regain his trust, and then also, Chris, how you were able to respond to her wanting to rebuild the trust as well. And then the last question for me will be, then how do you manage your marriage and your business simultaneously?
Yeah, we're going to get to that business. Okay, but yeah.
Well, go ahead. If you can answer that trust question for me, it'd be great. And also for the listeners as well, because I think that they're going to learn from it. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
For the trust, I knew, we sleep in the same bed. It was hard to just touch him and know that the affection is not as unique or as genuine as it was before, because it was cold. It was hard. And then I know that I broke his trust because I felt like I lied, even though I didn't lie, but it was like, I felt like I did. It's because I think this is it. It just came to my mind. It's because our vows were till death do us part, but not because I wanted it. It's only when God says that it's time.
That's good.
And I think that's why it felt so hard to go through that. And I'm getting goosebumps because I think that's it. I made a vow unto God. When our marriage occurred, I said I wanted to honor God in our marriage. And I wasn't, one, honoring God. And I wasn't honoring and respecting my husband. So that's why I knew I broke the trust. But how did I gain that trust? Mm-hmm. Well, I followed what he had requested. He wanted those hardline boundaries. He wanted us to take care of my daughter. That every time there was a thought, I had to think of my daughter. That it's selfish if I keep thinking about myself. I needed to think about my daughter's future. And then we had counseling. That was the other thing. The constant monitoring. And unfortunately, that's what was necessary. I needed to be monitored. And in our church, our pastor would always check up on us, and we were willing to be open and vulnerable to people that God said in our life. And that allowed us to work through. However, and I'll say this as to why I truly feel like our connection, our trust was rebuilt, is because we were able to communicate, mm-hmm. and we were able to really talk through those things, mm-hmm. and get through the hard, tough conversations and find ourselves together, being able to pray together, and then being able to read the Bible. That was it. Like, we started to really read the Bible together a lot. People from our church, we started going through the Bible together, and I can't tell you how much that has helped. Mm-hmm. We would go through scripture. Yeah, our small group. So those were ways that God had used to build us together.
That's good. I'm so glad you're mentioning that. Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just gonna say, for the trust side, for me, it's kind of simple. I'm flawed, and I'm, in so many ways. So I'm capable of mistakes just like anyone else is. And if I believe what I believe, and that's Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior, I mean, number one thing he says is to forgive. So why not for the person that I've chosen to be with for the rest of my life? She can make a mistake. If I can forgive someone else like that I work with for making a mistake, mm-hmm. how come I can't forgive the person that I'm closest with?
That's good.
But did you have to work through it, though? So it had to be, if she felt a coldness, okay, and a sort of like a separation, then how did you work through that? And then at what point did you forgive her? And then what point did you forgive yourself for responding the way you did?
That's a good question.
I forgave her pretty quickly. The trust was the slower build, but the forgiveness I knew was a biblical mandate. But I did know that I could take my time with building that trust back up. So that was the thing that took the longer time, where she felt the coldness. But forgiveness was almost immediate.
Gotcha. Well, we want to commend you. I mean, if no one else has, we want to commend you on taking such a mature, perspective, because you're in a younger category than us. And it's very rare to find people, younger people, in your age range that think the way you do. I mean, seriously, I'm sure
value and principles.
I'm sure you've seen those types of people where they're just not there. That's good. That's right. Yeah, being a veteran. Yeah, that does help. But we commend you. So before we try to, because I don't want to hold you, I know your baby. This is such a great conversation, and we again hope this truly reaches the people it needs to reach, as far as if you are a woman suffering with postpartum depression, know that it is real, know that you can get help, and don't believe what you hear, your body can lie to you sometimes, your thoughts can lie to you. You got to just really deal with the root cause. If there are any things from childhood or anything that happened recently, whatever the case may be, get the help you need. Now, we want to know, how do you incorporate, first of all, tell us really quickly about your business, and I'm going to put that up. How did you, because you told us, but we want our audience to kind of know how you transition. You're not a doctor, but you are a certified nutritionist. And then Chris, you are I'm going to say it to you.
online.
Personal trainer and life leadership coach.
Yes.
So, well, we started at the beginning of the pandemic. So obviously the pandemic closed down all the gyms. I was left without any income to speak of. So I was already preparing to kind of go off on my own. But the pandemic made a shift because I was originally thinking outdoor exercise. And now we switched to virtual. And we still are virtual. So that's half of what we do. I do virtual training. I also do mobile in-person training with our mobile fitness trailer, which is
now. Tell us really quickly about that. Yeah, I know it's a lag, but tell us really quickly because you told us about the mobile. That was very unique. I like the idea.
Yes, so the mobile, we're able to go to our clients' homes and we can train them one-on-one or a small group setting or corporate settings. And it's really a trailer that's built out with squat racks that, kind of fold out of the sides, full of bars, plyo boxes. It's fully equipped with Valor Fitness equipment. And Valor Fitness donated all their equipment to us.
Wow, that's great.
Because honestly, we made a connection with them on a spiritual ground. They supported our business and our mission as we, share the gospel in a gym setting. And on a handshake deal, we put Valor Fitness on the back of our trailer, and they donated a full trailer of equipment.
Wow.
So it's fully retrofitted.
Wow.
On my side, during the pandemic, I was working in the hospital, going towards residency, until finally some of my friends passed away. Some of them got really sick. And when I mean friends, I mean my doctor colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
One of my close doctor colleagues had passed away, and she was only 29, 30, going into 30. And so I was pregnant, and while working in the hospital and seeing COVID patients, I saw on the news, it was everywhere on the news, and even in the American College of Obstetrics, they said that if you're pregnant, you're high risk for developing a stillborn. So I came up to my supervisor at the time and I said, I would like to see patients, but maybe non-COVID, if that's okay. And they said, basically, you have no choice. You either see COVIDs or you don't work. So I had to make the choice to protect our baby, and I made a career shift, and that's why I went into nutrition.
Wow.
And now I know that medicine is needed at a certain time in life, but nutrition and fitness is the foundation of what God has given us, because our body is able to heal. God made it that way. And
Right.
if you understand how to eat better and how to move, then you are setting yourself up for success.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we partnered holistic nutrition and fitness together, as well as the spiritual, because we know that we are not successful unless we have the Lord Jesus with us. He is our sustainer.
Yes, I think that's amazing. I mean, I know it was a difficult transition. You go through medical school, you go through all of that. Our daughter right now, she wants to be a doctor. I don't know if we told you that. She's still in undergrad, but she wants to be an orthopedic surgeon. But the time it takes to go through medical school, and then for this huge shift that most of us didn't know was going to happen. But then you pivoted, even in the midst of everything that happened, you pivoted and you're still strong. So again, I commend you for not giving up, both of you, and finding out what was really in you, what you were capable of doing in the most difficult situation possible, right? It affected the entire world, but then going through what you went through with your beautiful baby girl who's saying, I guess it's time to get off mommy and daddy. Hi, precious. Oh my. Yeah, you got to put them markers away. They do that. They're like, well, let's see what this does. Kids do that. I remember when my daughter was small, she cut her hair off. She had like little braids, and I had taken a quick nap, and she cut it, and I was like, what happened to your hair? She thought she was one of those dolls that, the grow back. I don't know if you know about those dolls. You could cut their hair, but then they could pull it out. She was testing that theory. But anyway, kids do the darndest things, don't they? Yeah. Well, we definitely want to say that's your website. If you're in the Florida area, we're saying make sure you support them. We are so grateful that you made time in your busy schedule to sit with us on this podcast. I know it's going to help someone, a bunch of somebodies, right? Yeah. Because this is a real topic. And then we like the part about victory in that now you have a successful business and it's only going to go even further. Who knows where it'll go, right? But you're working together, right? In business, and you're using your abilities and your talents to get this business done and to really start to discover who you are. Because we're all about, discovering your true identity, why you were born, and start tapping into that. And the younger you do it is even better. But as long as you're above ground and still breathing, if you don't know who you are, you still have time. So we're grateful. Anything else you want to add before we...
If I could throw out there... Oh, I just wanted to mention too, we do also serve virtually. So we have clients in 14 states as well.
Ooh.
And Mikal has, nutrition clients in several states as well. So location it doesn't affect us.
Great.
Okay, that's awesome.
We can serve anybody anywhere.
And we can catch you. This is your Facebook, how they can catch you on Facebook. Hi, sweetie. This is for Facebook. So if they want to catch you on Facebook, is that cool that we put that up, right? And they can connect with you on, I guess, Facebook, Meta, whichever way you want to say it. Some people say Meta, some people say Facebook. But yes, so we want to get anything else you want to say before we let them go to their precious one who's telling us, I need you to get off what you're doing. And she's like, I need your attention, Mom and Dad.
Yeah. No, it's been a great podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. And so I'm sure that someone out there listening can glean from what was spoken and what was said, and also allow themselves to live again, even if they're experiencing it now, or if they still yet have the battles of that, the spirit of depression, because it can be defeated.
Yes. So make sure those that are watching, this is their website, okay? And if you want to connect with them on Facebook or Meta, this is one way. But I think if you just go to their website, correct, you'll be able to get in contact with you either way, because you'll have some contact information on the website.
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be
All
on
right.
the website.
All right. Well, if it's anything else you want to add, speak now or forever hold your peace.
All right. 1 Thessalonians. Go ahead.
5:17. Never. Come on.
She doesn't want to say it.
She don't want to say it.
She-
Memorize 1 Thessalonians
Never
5:17.
stop praying.
Never stop praying. Can you tell everybody God bless you? God bless you.
Ooh, God
you.
bless
God
you
bless
too,
you.
sweetie. Well, you three have a great evening. Let's stay in touch, okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
All right,
Have a
then.
great night.
God bless you.
All right,
Okay.
God bless.
Bye-bye. So make sure if you want to get in contact again with them, that you make sure you go to their website. Here it is. And, give them a thumbs up or like, even on Facebook, so that they know that you understand, those of you who understand the situation, their story, and you can relate. Maybe there's something you can glean and use, and thank them for that, sharing that information, okay? So as we wrap this up, what do we want to say, babe? We want to say, make sure you what? Comment, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and any other platform. We're pretty much everywhere as far as social media platforms. So make sure you go and check us out on YouTube, Marriage Enrichment, The Bakers. We're on Twitter. We're on TikTok-y. I call it TikTok-y. We're on IG. We're even on Pinterest. So check us out. Now, one of the things we want to talk about, because again, as a couple, we assist engaged and married couples with what they need. Make sure you go to our website, enrichmymarriage.com. You can find out more things about. We do individual one-on-ones, and we have something coming up. Let me pull it up there. So this is our cohort where we have a 6-week marriage course recipe for success. And so let me make sure I give you the right website address. And that's coming up. We're only going to be doing it like twice a year. So we have something coming up real soon. So make sure you go to marriagecourserecipeforsuccess.com. It's only going to be a certain number of couples that are allowed into it. And so it's an online course, but it's also, you'll have an opportunity to talk with us and get information that we've learned from our own marriage and from counseling with others, not their specific information, of course, but things that we had to provide to couples. So again, Marriage Course Recipe for Success. Make sure you check that out. We also have something else we want to talk about. We provide services such as, what is it called, baby? It's called Tablescape Rendezvous for Two. And this is a pic of what it is. So basically, it's an opportunity for us to service you, pop up a different theme. You see the different things. You have beach, you have red romance, you have different things. We can pop it up on your back deck, in your backyard, in a park, but preferably on your back deck, backyard. If you're in the Atlanta, Georgia area, we can assist you. So this is one of the services that we offer because we think you need that 2 hours. Is a good 2 hours just to connect and to be in tune with your spouse. Okay. So make sure you take time to go to that website and check it out. Okay. So with that being said, we want to first say thank you for joining us on this podcast.
Yes. Thank you.
We thought it was very informative. The couple again, Michael and Chris, make sure you go to their information. You can rewind and check that out. And again, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to our channels. Anywhere you see us, make sure you say, hey, give us a comment, say, I like that. Or if you even have some ideas about a type of topic that we haven't discussed yet, we'll do our best to accommodate you by either inviting some other guests, or we may be able to talk about ourselves depending on what it is. So with that being said, baby, anything else you want to add as we end this podcast?
No, I don't have anything to add, but it's been a great evening, and connect with us and stay tuned. We do have some other podcasts that's coming up.
Coming down, yeah.
So we're excited about these podcasts and excited about connecting with other communities as well, and sharing their story and sharing their lives. And so that's what we're about, and that's what these podcasts are about, basically for truth for daily living, and being able to glean from it. And I hope you're able to glean from it, learn from it, and also put in whatever you learn, put it to work. See if it works for you. See if you can, level up in other areas.
All right, so we're going to release you now. Whenever you see this, again, what do we want you to do? Comment, like, and subscribe. Give us those comments and those likes. And we'll be talking to you soon. And it's the Bakers. I'm Charlotte.
I'm Daryl.
And we're known as Team Baker. Have a great time, whether it's in the morning, evening, or afternoon when you see this. Yes. Have a great day, all right? We'll talk to you soon. Peace out. Hey, it is the Bakers. I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Daryl.
And we are here for Truth for Daily Living, another episode. And so tonight we have a couple, and the names are Mr. Kevin D. Neal and Mrs. Patricia Neal. So they are standing by, waiting to get in. And right after this short break, we will be back. All right? It's the Bakers. All right, we are ready to meet our guests this evening. They are here. Mr. and Mrs. Neal, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, we are doing well.
Doing great. How are you guys? Awesome.
Yes.
All right.
So
Nice to be
we,
with you this evening.
yeah, so we are glad you are our guest this evening on Truth for Daily Living. And our topic, I think, is a really important topic, something that's dear to my heart. And that's about what? The importance of imagination. That's the kind of topic, based on what we talked about, I think kind of will sum up your story and what we're going to talk about tonight and how important it is to use your imagination. What do you think about that?
That's wonderful. I think that's something great to start out with.
Yes, yes, yes. So we want to first start with you introducing yourself, and then your wife can do the same, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. My name is Kevin Neal again, and I am a author, a leadership and life coach, and also a leadership trainer and presenter. I'm a keynote speaker as well. So we are married. Been married for 41 years.
Woohoo!
Wow.
Yes.
Awesome. Great.
This is my wife. I'll let her.
Yeah.
My name is Patricia, and I've been retired from teaching English as a second language for
Woohoo.
about 5 years.
Congrats.
I'm a little tired of being retired. How about that? So I went back to teaching this year.
Okay.
Just started back, and so
Part-time, of course.
part-time.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I am back.
Great. So we talked about a number of things when we talked with your husband, but let's start first of all. Your husband, you probably will agree, you can let me know, he loves learning. When you look at all the degrees, the letters behind his name, I like to give people their props, because everybody doesn't do it. So I'm not going to slide by. Some people are like, I don't want to talk about, no. We're going to give you your props because you deserve it. So you have a BA, a BS, a MA, and you also are a doctoral candidate. So is your life busy or what?
It's very busy. Not to mention, I have a full-time job as well as starting my business and getting it off the ground. It's tough.
Wow. So, let's start with that before we get to the other question then. How do you balance all of those things together? Wife, business, work?
It's
Education.
Difficult. My wife will tell you probably so as well. That is difficult because a lot of times she's on me about spending more time with her and that kind of thing. And of course, I understand that family comes first, and no matter what else, and that includes ministry, that includes school, that includes everything. Family comes first, and so I try to make sure that I don't exclude her from the things that I'm doing, and try to talk to her about. Just give me a little time to do this, give me a little time to do that, and I'll make it up to you. So I try to make sure that she knows that she's number one in my life, that I love her, and that no matter what else comes or goes, it's all about us.
Yes.
So why did you choose education as being and why is it so important to you? What is it that you're attempting to accomplish, with all of the degrees that you have, and also the extensive experience that you have already? So what is the main goal as far as your education?
Well, like your wife mentioned earlier, I do like learning, and honestly, it came at a later point in my life where I really understood how much I enjoyed learning.
Okay.
Of course, I when I went to school earlier in my life, I enjoyed it, but then things come up. You end up having the stress and struggles of life, and you got to put it down. But then when I decided that I wanted to go back to school, and I made it a point that I was going to stick to it. I started studying and doing research And I said, wow, I really like this, and I'm actually kind of good at it, you know. And so that's where I've been.
Okay.
Okay.
You know, and I'm not going to just go off the rails with my learning, of course. But I do believe that we all should have a growth mindset.
That's right.
And whatever field that we are in, we ought to want to grow.
Yes. So, Miss Neo, what was your passion or your drive to want to be a teacher? I mean, you retired from teaching. What was your drive for that? I'm just curious.
Well, that started a long time ago. When I was younger, I always liked art. I wanted to be an art teacher.
Okay.
But art is not always a field that you can just get into and really make money from. So my mother encouraged me just to go into education. She said, well, just become an art teacher instead of... My dream was to go to New York. So that was my dream. But I was kind of set on another path. And I actually was not an art teacher. I just became an elementary teacher, which I loved. But the only thing about that, I always felt like I wanted to make time for my family as well as encouraging other people's family. My family had to come first. And that's the thing that, we often talk about with his learning and me doing what I'm doing. We have to remember that even though our children are grown, our family has to come first. So whatever that entails us, that includes our children and our grandchildren, making sure that in all of our doing, that we make time for our family as well, because family is first and foremost. I really feel like, whatever else we do, that's first. That'll always be there.
That's great.
So obviously you like teaching or enjoyed teaching because you went back to it on a part-time basis as well, right?
I went right back to it. I thought that I'd had enough. I've done it for 30 years. I thought I'd had enough. But after being out for 5 years and then COVID hit, I don't know if you know our story. We're here in South Carolina. That we moved here. But we moved here. I had plans once I retired to always teach. I was going to teach until I died.
And she's gifted at that. She's a gifted teacher. And when you're working in your gift, it's easy and it's something that you.
That's true.
Yeah.
I've heard the saying that if you work in your gift, you'll never have to work a day in your life.
Yes,
That's right.
I believe that.
So that's your fulfillment basically. So you're working in the areas. Oh, that's good.
That's great.
And I'm sure that many students have been able to benefit from your gift as well, being in the school system for a number of years, and then making those, developing those relationships as well. Because when you're able to touch the heart of a child, and they learn from you, that basically leaves a lasting impression upon you as well. And it really pulls on that gift, and then you want to give more of it because someone is putting a demand on that as well, correct?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Fulfilling.
It's fulfilling. Now, although you had the specific careers, now we want to talk about business. So I know your husband has business. Do you have any entrepreneurial things that you have on the horizon or you're doing before I get to him?
I am a certified life coach. I became certified about 10 years ago. It's been about 10 years now.
Okay.
So I do coach.
Okay.
And I have coached teachers. And I've actually coached students as well, a couple of students. When parents found out that I was a life coach, they asked me to not only tutor, but try to, to coach their child as well. So that is not, I don't have it set aside as a separate business, but it's something that I do, and I will tell people that, I am available if they need it.
Great.
Okay.
So tell us, Mr. Kevin, about your, get more into what you do with your training, life, and leadership coaching.
Okay, well, I believe that my focus and my calling is to bring people to an understanding of who they are, their story, to be able to write, live, and lead through their story so they can become better leaders, better entrepreneurs, people and better teams. Because I think that once we learn how to, number one, lead ourselves, we can become better leaders and better communicators and help others within our own circle. I think the number one thing is if we can get down learning how to lead ourselves, that is a major step in our leadership development. Because, many people don't know how to lead themselves because they've never tried. And one thing about leading yourself, you know what types of excuses you have. So you can't really bring excuses to yourself because you know your excuses and you know where they're valid or not valid. So once you learn how to lead yourself, then you can start to lead others.
Yeah. So have you both at any point decided to work together on any particular business venture at all? Since she's a life coach and you're a coach, have you worked together in that capacity, like business specific?
Well, I've been trying to pull her into business. She's been a little hesitant, a little resistant.
Okay.
Hopefully we can get her working together in this business.
Yeah, I actually pay me.
Ah!
Pay working in this business. Otherwise, I'll do it as something that just comes naturally as
right.
opposed to having to have to do it.
Yeah.
Well, we know all the money goes into the same pot. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked is because if you didn't know, that's one of our hearts. Besides, we counsel couples, so we'll talk about that really quickly. We counsel engaged and married couples, but one of the pieces we talk about is to build generational wealth. You need something beyond a 9-to-5, typically. I mean, you can have great careers and make good money, but that don't mean you're going to have generational wealth. So we really encourage couples to find something that they can work on together. It's a process, finding out which you two have already done, but finding out what your gifts are, your talents, pulling those together and see what type of model business that you could come up with. Right, babe?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm going to encourage you, Miss Patricia, to, see where you get in, where you fit in, for real, for generational purposes. You know what I'm saying? It's beyond just our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, like this past weekend, just piggybacking on generation, we had our family reunion for my side of the family. And it was so refreshing, even though I had heard things. I met new people. A lot of people in my family have the same name. It's really quite interesting. But the point I want to get to is that I know where I came from. Back to the very first person that hit the Americas, when it was called the Americas, down to me. So generationally, I don't see any generational wealth. You know what I mean? I didn't see anybody that I know of that was multimillionaires or billionaires. And so we want to shift that paradigm, right? We do. And we want to encourage couples to do that. So that's one of the things that we do. You can check out those that are watching, check us out on enrichmymarriage.com. And we'll talk a little bit more about the cohort we're going to be doing. But I think it's important for couples. It's not just, as I'm sure you know, after 40 plus years, we commend you. Wow, we're 23 plus years in. So we're at a little over the halfway point of where you are. And we encourage couples to find ways to build legacy. People use that term sometimes very loosely. But what does that really mean? You have to define it for your own, as a couple yourself, whoever you are. And that still should encompass wealth. Yes. Would you agree or disagree?
Oh, I would definitely agree. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also I think that we have to define success depending upon who we are. Because just because you have a lot of money, or just because you have a large business or what have you, that does not necessarily mean you have success. I have a quote, and I quoted on my Facebook, and I said that success without significance is self-delusion or something to that effect. Because we can think that we have success, but if it's not significant, if we have no significance in our lives and the lives of the others around us, it means nothing.
That's true.
That's right. That's right. One of the things I would like to share and just kind of point out, and just by the observation and hearing what you guys have experienced, you already have the model in place as far as the partnership. And so you go from, the marriage partnership to a business partnership. If you've been married for 40 years, so you have been through some trials, some situations, some ups and downs, and some successes, right? And then you have learned how to work through, navigate, and work together, all right? And so in business, you're going to have some ups and downs and things of that nature, but if you already been conditioned to working through issues and situations, then it's just an added benefit, but it's just another page to the journey, so to speak.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I would dare say, I'm sure you have a lot of wisdom. 40 years, you could, offer to other couples. So that would be another question. Have you ever put something together? I'm putting this stuff out there. Maybe you're going to do it. I don't know. Have you ever put something together for couples, to help, what you have experienced so far?
Well, I was pastoring a church at one time.
Yes.
Of course, through that, we had the occasion to have couples to come to us for marriage counseling and that kind of thing. And we would always do it jointly. We would never, do anything individually.
We agree.
So that was something that we all did together.
Yeah, we agree. We don't counsel separately. The only time we would is that we are in two separate rooms and the wife needs to talk to me about something for a moment, and so we're on the Zoom and he needs. But otherwise, we're together. We don't give any appearance of issues, especially since couples are coming to you with issues. We're not trying to create any more.
Absolutely.
Anyway, right? So another thing I want to jump to is the main topic of this podcast is the importance of imagination. So that takes us to your book. Your book you told us about was so interesting, related to how you connected with your father. So if you can share with the audience a little bit about your book called Embracing Your Superpower. I love the title.
Thank you. Actually, the book is kind of a tribute to my father, because my father passed away in 2019. And it was only after he passed away that I began to think of some things that I saw in him as he lived. My father was just an amazing man with a brilliant imagination. He in his early to mid 20s, he and my mother got married, and he found out that he had a spinal disease. I'm trying to think of the name of the disease. I can't remember the name of the disease right now, but it was a spinal disease that causes degeneration over time. And so they wanted to have surgery on him. And he had just gotten married, had a small growing family. Actually, I think my brother had been born, and my sister was getting ready to be born. And so he wanted to wait until after she was born to go in for the surgery. Well, he goes in for the surgery and he comes out a quadriplegic. And so he became a quadriplegic for about 3 years. And the doctors gave him no hopes of walking again. They didn't give him any kind of hopes of ever being able to do the things that he did before. And what's so amazing about this story is it goes back to my great-grandmother. Because my great-grandmother was born with no arms.
Really?
Wow.
And my father used to tell us how he used to carry my great-grandmother around, from place, and help her. But my great-grandmother learned how to support her family by playing the piano with her feet.
Wow.
She learned how to play the piano with her feet. Not only that, but she also became a seamstress with her feet.
Wow.
So my dad all this was ingrained in him.
Mm-hmm.
So after 3 years, my dad, with no help from the doctors, began to walk on a walker. After that, he began to walk with a cane.
Wow.
For the rest of his life, that's how I saw him walking on a cane. My dad did some amazing things that, people with all of their activities would not try.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would see him do some things. He would get under. Now, my father had 8th grade education.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He would get under his truck, take out the transmission, have us to take it into the house. He would take it apart. Now he didn't have any kind of automotive training, but he would get a book and he would look in the book and see how to rebuild his transmission, and he would rebuild that transmission, put it back in the truck.
Wow. Amazing.
I mean, he was such an amazing, and that's just one of the stories that I can tell you about my dad. He was such a great man, and he had such a great imagination, and that's what really prompted this. He could not see himself not walking again.
See, that's the key word, isn't it? He could not see. So, not interrupting you, but it's important, right, to be careful of what you see. So we tell ourselves, we tell couples, it's like guard your eye gates, because what you see, you can't unsee.
Right.
Whether it's good or bad, right? So if you're constantly pouring in toxic things, guess what? You're going to be spewing with toxicity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have to be so careful. So because he could see himself not laying in the bed the rest of his life,
that was it.
He got exactly what he saw. And that just amazes me, which is his imagination. He could see, he was looking beyond his current circumstances, which is what we call in Christian, faith. Right. That's amazing. Could you tell us really quickly, you told us a story about the carport.
Yes.
That was amazing too. I'm sure you know about this, Miss Patricia, right?
My dad, in the house that we were raised in, there was a driveway with a concrete pad, but it didn't have an overhang over it to keep the weather from beating down on you if you got out of the car. So my dad wanted to build a carport over that pad so my mom wouldn't have to worry about coming through the rain and the weather. So my mom told him that she was going on to a women's retreat or a women's convention, and that she would be gone for a week. And this is what he told me from his own mouth. He said he would lay in the bed the week before she left and just imagine how he could do that without having to ask somebody to come and help him. Because my dad was not one of those kind of people that just get people to help him. He would do things himself or figure out a way to do it himself. One of his famous sayings was, if you don't have what you need, if you don't have what you want, use what you have and make it what you want out of it.
Wow, that's good.
He thought about laying in the bed just, at night, thinking about how could I do this without getting somebody to help me to do it. And so he thought about it until he finally came up with a solution. My mom goes away for a week. By the time my mom comes back, he has a carport built over that concrete pad. And he knew that if he had told her that he was going to do that, she wouldn't have allowed him to do it. But he waited until she went away for a week and built that overhang.
Wow.
So I'm still amazed at the things that he's done.
So what would be one thing, if you could, encourage anyone that sees this podcast as far as their life, no matter where they are right now, in the area of imagination? What could you do, if you could say something, and maybe Miss Patricia, you can add something as well, to encourage people not to give up and to use their imagination? We talked about that too before you answer, how when it used to be old school kindergarten, because I taught in the school system, but I was a sub, but I was there for 15 years. I was really a teacher. But anyway, in kindergarten, old school kindergarten, you had playtime. And they kind of got away, removed that from the school. So then the kids really, at least in where I was, they didn't get a chance to really imagine, too much. So could you give some encouragement about not giving up and the importance of tapping into your imagination?
Okay, you want to start? Okay. Well, I would say this, and starting with what my dad used to say: if you don't have what you need, use what you have, make what you want out of it. You have to envision what you want. Get a clear picture of what it is that you need, that you want in your life, how you want your life to go. Get a clear picture. Focus on that picture. I mean, because and I kind of touch on this in the book, that there are neural pathways in our brain. And those, when we activate our imagination, the same pathways that are activated when we actually do something physically are the same pathways that are activated when we imagine it. So actually, we do it twice. We imagine it, and our brain goes through the process of doing it, and then we actually physically manifest it with our hands. So what I would say is get that crystal clear picture in your mind. If you want to write it out, if you want to, get a picture from somewhere that you can point to and say, this is what I want. This is how I want things to be. Get it in your mind and constantly meditate on it. Constantly meditate on it, and figure out, how can I do this? How can I make this happen? And if you can figure out the how, you've already got the why.
That's good.
Just figure out the how, because if you want to do it, if it's something that's in your heart and God has placed it in your heart to do, He will make a way for you to do it. So just get that picture. You can't have it happen unless you have a vision of it first. If you can see it, you can have it. It can be just what you see.
Wow, that's good.
It reminds me of the scripture that when we ask God to give us the desires of our heart, but let those things that He desires for us be the desires of our heart. I think that even when we see it, there are times when we might not always be able to make it happen, but we have to depend on God. I really do feel like, it's a scary thing to just depend on our imagination. Because when we just think that we can think about it and it happens, that can be just a little bit misleading. Because there are other things that we have to do as well. There are things that we have to do there. Faith without the works, we also have to have the works behind what we do. So we can imagine it and we can say it. And one big thing is, everybody might not see what you imagine.
True.
Everybody might not go along with you. Everybody might not be a part of your vision, but you have to have your vision anyway. But make sure that vision is something that God has given you, because it can be very misleading, and you don't want to take the wrong paths in life, or you don't want to misstep or do anything that you're not supposed to be doing at the time. But just make sure that you depend on God, trust in God with all your heart. Don't lean to your own understanding. In all your ways, you have to acknowledge Him and let Him direct the path, even with your imagination. So you imagine that thing, you go out and work on it, because faith without works is
absolutely dead. You want to add something? You want to add something?
No, that's good. No, that's
that's good.
That's absolutely, because I believe that you do have to. I guess I do want to add.
Yeah, you do.
I believe it's important. I believe it's important to have a balance, because even God's word says that unbalanced weight is an abomination unto Him, and so we need to learn how to balance the natural with the supernatural, the spiritual with the natural as well. And so that's why it's important to have that imagination, but also trust in the Lord as well. And then also making sure that whatever it is that we can do, that we find ourselves doing it.
Right.
Because a lot of times what happens is that God, He's bound to His word. He's bound to the legal aspect of His word, right? There's certain things that He would do, but certain things he commissioned us to do as well. And the things that he commissioned us to do, he's not going to do it for us. All right? It is something that we have to do, but it's going to be based upon, his law, based upon his word, based upon, his commission and his commandments that he had given us. Because if he had given us the commandment and he'd given us dominion over the earth, that means that we have a great responsibility over earth, right? And then we have to be able to do what we're able to do, within our limitations to do it, based upon his leading and his guidance, right? A lot of times people want God to do everything. God, go to the hospital and heal this person and heal that person, right? Can he do it? Perhaps he could. Will he always do it? No, because he's given us the power. He's given us the authority. And there's certain things we have to recognize that we have to do, okay, based upon his prompting as well. And so we go in the power and the might of God, but we're doing it by faith as well.
And I think sometimes, go ahead.
What'd you say?
What you say? No, go ahead.
To say that if you take one step, he'll take two. We know that's not scripture, but it has an element of truth to it. You have to do what you have to do.
Yes.
And then God will uphold his word. He will follow on his word. So
that's good. Yeah, and I was going to add to that this is a totally different subject somewhat, because we can do a whole podcast on it. But I think sometimes in Christendom, that can be, like you were saying, a little misleading, the way it's been suggested, that you just pray and he going to do it. You just pray, and then people will be praying for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but they haven't done anything. So we always talk about how you have to mix practicality with spirituality. And that's one of the things we like to do, even in our marriage business. Practicality and spirituality. Don't be, like he said, an imbalanced weight where it's just one thing. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm waiting for you, Lord. And he's like, I'm waiting for you. I need you. Talking about I'm supposed to write a book. I'm waiting for you. You need to sit down and write the book. God's not going to come out of heaven and write the book for you. He's giving you the words, the revelation. You write it. Right? You say, oh, God says I'm going to have a business. But yet you haven't even applied for incorporation. You're not a C Corp, a S Corp, a T Corp, or no Corp. You know what I'm saying? You're just waiting on the Lord. But that's the practicality part of it. He gives you the revelation about something for you to do. And then, like he said, you have to do what you need to do in the natural. Everything is not going to be super spiritual. Right? When we brush our teeth, that's not super spiritual. It's just the practicality of you want your breath to smell good. So you need to physically brush your teeth. And I think sometimes that's what I said in Christendom. It can be, presented in a way that it's just, I'm just going to pray and it's going to happen. And we're so like, no, you have to have practical steps. Again, faith without works. And then you think about the second point, and I'm going to move on from this, just think about everything that is in existence now. It started with imagination. The tables we eat on, the cars we drive, the planes. Literally, someone saw it in their head. They transcribed it, whether in words or pictures, and then they created it. So the faith, the faith part, they saw it here first. They put it on paper, and then they created it. So that lets you know the chairs we sit in. Somebody drew that. Somebody thought about that. Everything in the earth, like the things that men make, has happened because of imagination. People tapping into their imagination. It's like it can take you so many places. And I really wish our children could really get that concept again of really imagining. For example, our daughter, when she was in pre-K, we hadn't had any conversations about what she wanted to do with her life. And they had a little career day in pre-K. Don't ask me why pre-K was doing a career day. But anyway, they had little outfits because they still participated in playtime. You know what she gravitated to? She didn't really even understand the concept. She gravitated to a white coat and a stethoscope. And from that moment on, she said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be a doctor. She went to draw pictures of her being a doctor, and then when she got into elementary school, it was in the art show with her with a stethoscope and a white coat and a little needle. And to this day, she's in school, her 3rd year in school. She started next month. She goes to Howard University. Shout out to Howard. She's studying sports medicine.
Great.
And she wants to be an orthopedic surgeon. But it started with her seeing it in pre-K.
Yes.
Now, we were like, okay, if this is what you want to do, we would ask her, because it wasn't us that influenced it. I truly believe it was the Lord, because we used to always pray, Lord, let her be, be excellent in science and math. We didn't even know, really what it was going to, but she was, and she is, because you need those kind of, academics to be in the medical field. But my point is, she saw it.
Yeah.
So I would say to the audience, whoever sees this, what do you see?
Right.
You need to really ponder that question. What are you seeing for your life? Because we're real advocates about destiny. I wrote a book a few years back called Destiny Takes Time. Anybody can catch that on Amazon if you like. And the whole point of it was, in my 20s, I was like, this can't be it. Because what I was seeing, I'm like, this is it for life? This it? It was like, I felt so unfulfilled because I wasn't really seeing anything. I didn't see myself. You need to see yourself. And some people, I'm sure you've seen this in your years together and just in life, that some people just go around life existing.
Yeah.
What do you have to tell people, like, don't just exist? You have a certain amount of time in the world. This is a certain dispensation of time that God sold you into this world. People can say whether you believe in God or not. Listen, God is the one that sold you into the earth. You can, whether you believe him or not, that's what happened. He sold you into the earth for a reason.
Yes.
What are you doing with your time, with your life, that can impact others? No, everybody's not going to be a president. No, everybody's not going to be a senator. But whatever influence you are supposed to have, are you operating in it? I could preach that sermon, but go ahead.
And just for clarification, when she said God have sold you into the earth, she's saying SOWED, not sold, SOLD.
Right.
Okay, just for clarification.
Thank you.
For those
for
that
people
are
who listening. Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I kind of wanted to add on to that as well. When we're talking about imagination and faith and prayer and all that, Dr. Miles Monroe had a saying. He said that when the purpose of a thing is unknown, abuse is inevitable.
Yes.
When the purpose of a thing is unknown, abuse is inevitable. People abuse imagination as well.
Yes.
I mean, just because, yes, imagination is a wonderful gift.
Mm-hmm.
But just as people use other gifts to do evil or to put upon themselves, as the Bible says, filthy lucre. They do those things outside of what God wants. But there is an intended purpose for imagination. There's an intent to make life better for us and those around us, to make this world a better place, and to be all the glory that God intended for it to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's
when
right.
we use it for that, yes, things will fall in line, things will happen. But when we use it for other things, the devil will take control of that imagination, that gift, whatever it is, and use it for his purpose.
Yes.
That's
So
right.
we have to be understanding if we are to use whatever gift God has given us.
Amen.
And he's given us all the gift of imagination. All of us can't sing, all of us can't play, but all of us have the gift of imagination.
Yes.
That's
yes.
What I think to children all the time is use your imagination to create. That is the gift that God has given us. That's what God used. He said in the beginning, let there be, and he created. That God is all imaginative. He is the creator of everything. And so use our imagination to create. Now, what can you create? As simple as drawing a picture, can you do that?
Yes.
Can you create that? Can you go out and pick a bunch of flowers and put them in a vase and make them look pretty? Look what you have created. You've taken other things that were not so, and you brought them to be. So you use your imagination to create.
Yes.
That's right.
And it's definitely a fine line. I know we're not going to keep going with this, because we could do a whole podcast about imagination, because the pure side of imagination is always in contention with the not so pure. You know, the theology that's out there now, it's just kind of warped, and I'm not going to even touch it, but we know it's there because I don't want to get into all the demonic part of it, but a lot of times they're pulling up on the unhealthy world to bring stuff into the present. And I'm going to just say it like that. Because we're not doing the teaching. We trying to keep it a little light but truthful. You know, but you understand exactly what we're saying. Yeah. And so we're talking about the pure side of imagination, like you just said. God said he knew what he wanted, how he wanted the earth. He knew how he wanted everything, and he spoke it. He saw it. I'm sure he saw it, and then he spoke it, and it happened. So that's I think the pure side of what we're talking about. But yes, your book. Wow, I just it's so I just like the title and the things you've said about it. You wanted to add something? You about to say something? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's important for us as grown people, men and women, to start reimagining and think about those things that we've saw ourselves being when we were children, and how has our life basically transformed from what we thought our life would have been to what it is today, and then can we reimagine that our life will still yet be better, even after all of the failures that we've experienced, the setbacks, the disappointments.
Preach.
All of the things that life brought us. That we had no concept.
None.
Or no anticipation of being able to experience some of those things. Can we take this moment to reimagine and then imagine again? And then develop something good out of something bad that have taken place in our lives as well. Because no matter what experience that we have experienced in life, there's still something that we can learn from those experiences and create something good out of it.
Yes.
Right? And so I think this is a great topic. I think it's important for us as men and women to continue to imagine and to continue to dream again, continue to believe again, because a lot of people have had some letdowns.
Yes.
Have had some casualties in their own personal life.
Yes.
Have lost some desires.
Yes.
And have forgotten and given up on some dreams. Can we imagine again? Can we dream again? Can we work toward creating a better life for ourselves, regardless of what the current situation has been, regardless of what we have experienced in our past season? You see, if we still yet have life, then there's still yet hope. And if we still yet have hope, then we have the ability to create something better for ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Okay. No matter what the age range has been, no matter what it doesn't matter what the deficit has been in the past season, right? Can you imagine? Because it doesn't take you anything but time. And to imagine, what can we do right now to make our current situation better?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. And let's go back. Say that again.
No, I was just going to say it in your quest for reimagining. That's what a leadership and life coach, that's their job, to help you to reimagine.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes,
True. That's true.
And those of you, and if you need some leadership or coaching, reach out to the Neils, because they have developed those skill sets. They have the experience. They have the educational aspect of it, and to help you to get on track and to renew your commitment to yourself. Because if you imagine something that you would be years ago and it hasn't happened, make that recommitment to yourself and your family, okay, and to live again.
Live
So,
again. I agree. I think it's so important. And then as we start to bring this to a close, that's that one side, but I can hear the other side saying, well, I never imagined that I would do anything. We're still speaking to you. It is not too late. If you're still breathing, start imagining now. For me, as a writer, I'm a writer. We're both authors. And I tell people, I was telling someone over the weekend, I said, it was actually a young girl. She was about 7 or 8. And we said, you're a writer? And she said, yeah. And so I said, get a journal. Write your thoughts. And I'm saying that to anyone that hears it. If you say, I never imagined I would be anything, well, then you need to start now, get a journal, start writing. Just write and see what you discover about yourself. Because if you never imagined anything in your entire life, that means you definitely weren't in an environment that was conducive for you to be creative. But the past is gone. As I used to hear, I said the old folks in the family say, yesterday is in the tomb, right? It is gone, right? Tomorrow's in the womb. So you still have the opportunity for something to grow, but you got to plant some seeds. So let's write down the stuff first so that it can start germinating and growing, so that if it's in the womb, eventually it's going to birth forth as what? A full vision, a full thing, right? So no more excuses. We don't accept any excuses. I'm sure they don't either. No excuses. You got to be about doing. Finding out who you are, discovering who you are is one of the first things. And then to start imagining. Yes. You got to do it. I was like, I don't know how else we can say it. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. We're here to we're cheerleading. You got to do it, because we truly understand what it means to build, especially when you come from the vein of really including God. Some people don't include God, but we do. And we're like, God, what do you want us to do with our life? As a man, as a woman, as a couple. And the things he said, it's like, whoa. You want us to do that? But we write it down and we just, continue to pray about it. But it's good to have vision. It's good because it gives you hope. It gives you a purpose. You have something to look forward to. I'm sure you would agree. So as we begin to bring this in, because we could, again, talk about this, what would be one thing from each of you that you could leave as a positive note for the audience, just encompassing, again, imagination, anything else? And then I'm going to give some information about you and where we can find you and connect with you both. What would just one thing you could leave with the audience, in addition to what you've already said, that could just encourage them even more about imagining and getting up off that couch and doing something? You may not literally be on the couch, but just get up.
Well, mine would be, don't be afraid to create. Don't be afraid to create. I know sometimes I walk around the house and I'm saying, I want to do this and I want to do that, and I can see what it is. He can't always see it, but that's okay that he can't see it. I'm going to bring him along anyway, because I'm going to get it started and he's going to finish it. So don't be afraid to create it. Don't let anybody put stoppers on your creation. Don't let anybody try to smash what you think, or say that it's not worth it, or that's not a good idea. Create, and don't be afraid to recreate.
Great.
Amen.
And what I would say is that, first of all, as long as you have breath in your lungs, as long as you have a mindset that allows you to think, it's not too late. It's not too late. I would say that the only time it's too late is when you close your eyes for the last time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's the only time when it's too late. But as long as you have activity, as long as you have a brain function, as long as you have breath, you have an opportunity to make your imagination come to be. You have the opportunity to work on the things that God has placed within you for you to do, for you to create, for you to open up, for you to discover. Because there's so many things out there that have not been discovered. There's so many innovations that have not been made because somebody has not yet cultivated their imagination. But if you could start to cultivate that imagination, and you have to place yourself in the right positions for that imagination to be cultivated.
Yes.
Give yourself permission to imaginate, to have your imagination to go forth. Give yourself permission. I know we grow up and we hear all the time people put all these things on us about being responsible, paying your bills, doing this and doing that, and we leave imagination out of the mix. But give yourself permission to imagine again.
Yes, that's good. Yeah. You have anything you want to add as we wrap this up?
Yeah, one of the key things you said is that there's so many things that has not been created because of the imagination have not brought a solution at this point. There's so many issues, so many problems that we're experiencing in our society. So if someone out there that's listening, imagine how you can solve a problem that is in your own community, a problem that's in your own family, a problem that is in our society that needs a solution.
That's good.
And so problems get solved by imaginations. It gets solved by someone determining and coming up with a solution on how to fix the issue.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that is part of having dominion in the earth. Okay? God gives us imagination to fix issues and problems, and the problem cannot be a problem cannot be solved at the same level that it was created. It has to be solved at a higher level. So that means the thought process has to be developed at a higher level in order to solve a problem at a lower level.
Yes.
I mean, doesn't that make sense?
That's good. And people have to move past that 4-letter word, fear. Fear. You gotta blow past fear. Wave bye-bye to fear. You have to do it. I'm serious. You have to really be intentional, because fear will hold you down. You'll look up again 10, 15, 20 years and went by and you're like, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. But fear, right? So we want to end with let go of the fear. Yeah. Okay, whenever you see this, let go of the fear.
And the only way that you're going to be able to cancel fear is by doing it.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Whatever fear is telling you can't do, you won't do, just do it anyway.
Just do it. You're afraid to write a book? Write.
Right.
You're afraid to speak? Speak. Get a podcast. Do whatever you are afraid to do. We talk about within reason. So let me put that little plug in there. We're not talking about jumping off of a cliff. Okay, let's be practical here. But we're talking about things that you may be afraid to do that sometimes people they just don't take a chance. But we want to thank you both. Oh my goodness, for agreeing to be a part of our podcast. We appreciate you so much. We just met you. And we're hoping to stay in contact. I mean, I think it'll be especially since you guys used to live in our area, Georgia. You listen, that's still home. And so we want to make sure we stay connected with you. And so one of the ways, if you want to get connected, I have Mr. Neal's information. There is his website. You can check that out.
What's his website?
It is KDNeal.BillsBridges.com. Pretty cool name. KDNeal.BillsBridges.com. Also, do you want us to share your LinkedIn? Are you good with that or no?
Sure.
Okay. Sure. So this is his LinkedIn information. I'm not going to read all that. You can see it on the video. And if you're listening by audio podcast, you can also just go right to our YouTube channel and you can see that. And that's where you can reach him on LinkedIn. Yes. So again, we want to thank you so much for being with us on this podcast, this episode. We appreciate you both. Anything else you want to add before we release them?
No, it's been a pleasure. It's a pleasure meeting you, Ms. Neal, as well.
Yes.
And Mr. Neal, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for sharing some nuggets and dropping some gems as well, and giving us the opportunity and the audience to live again, imagine again, and visualize again. So those are important as well. So we thank you for your time, and thank you for being a gift and being a blessing as well, to God's people and also to your community as well, because your gift is making room for you.
Yes.
We thank you for inviting us,
Yes.
and we had such a blast being here.
Yes. All right. We're going to release you as we end this show, but we'll be talking soon, okay?
All right.
All right.
right.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. So we are so grateful for the opportunity that we had with the Neals to be on our
Yes.
podcast. Make sure you check out as we wrap this up, make sure you check out our website, enrichmymarriage.com. Okay? enrichmymarriage.com. We want to talk about really quickly because we want to release you some of the things we're doing upcoming. We have a marriage cohort that we will be releasing, and you can just go to our website, marriagecourserecipeforsuccess.com. And it's a cohort because we're only going to allow a certain number of actual married couples. Eventually we're going to be doing one for engaged couples as well. But make sure you go to marriagecourserecipeforsuccess.com because the date is coming up, and once that door opens, you have to sign up quickly before we close it, okay? One of the other things that we do, because we talked about practicality and spirituality, we have what we call Tablescape Rendezvous for Two, okay? And so that basically, let me show you what that's like. That basically involves us setting up, if you're in the local Georgia area, setting up. It's basically like a pop-up picnic type environment. But what we do is we pop up different themes so you as a couple can come together and enjoy each other, whether it's on your back deck, your back lawn, in certain parks. We have certain parks we can utilize. But the goal is for you to come together for those 2 hours, and we pop it up, and then you just enjoy, and then you go away, and we take care of the rest. So make sure you go to that website again at Tablescape Rendezvous for Two, and make sure you see what dates are available and get that done. And this is, we mentioned this already, but I just wanted to make sure, again, you check out our cohort that is going to be upcoming, Marriage Course Recipe, like we just said, for success. And I think that kind of wraps it up, with the addition of saying thank you for joining us on this podcast.
Yes.
I mean, we are truly grateful for the opportunity for you to, tune in for wherever you're tuning in. Right, babe? What do you want to say?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Follow us as well on our YouTube channel.
Yes.
You can...
Let me pull that up. Yes. Check us out. I've been scrolling that. Check us out. And let's see what else we want to say before we end here. Let's see. I think that's about it. Check us out on Instagram. I don't have to go through all those. If you go to Instagram, if you go to Twitter, if you go to TikTok, we're there. It's scrolling on the screen now. But most importantly, make sure you go to our YouTube channel, Marriage Enrichment The Bakers, and you'll eventually see this podcast. So what you're going to have to do is go to our link tree, and then you're going to see which episode, when it's being released, and then you'll know, like this particular one, it'll be released soon, okay? So I think that's it. Again, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah, go to all those websites we mentioned, enrichmymarriage.com, Tablescape Rendezvous for Two, or Marriage Course Recipe for Success, and then we'll be talking to you real soon.
Yes.
All right, so I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Daryl.
And we are the Bakers, and it's been a pleasure. And wherever you are, have a great, whether it's day, afternoon, or evening when you view this, and we'll be talking soon. It's the Bakers.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey. It is Charlotte.
And Daryl.
And we are here with another episode of Truth for Daily Living podcast. And we have another dynamic speaker that's going to be with us. So make sure you stay tuned. Right after this commercial, we'll come back and introduce you. Okay? All right. Hold on. All right, let's bring him in. Hello. How are you?
great, Charlotte. How are you doing?
Great. We are doing well. So we have Mr. John, he likes to be called Mr. John J.R. Rennie, here with us today. And we want to get started talking about, first of all, saying, again, welcome to Truth for Daily Living with Daryl and Charlotte Baker. In our previous podcast, we want to talk about how it is important to use your imagination. And I think even what we're going to talk about in this podcast is going to still connect with that. Mm-hmm. So the title for this one that we came up with is called The Importance of Knowing Who You Are and Your Purpose. Mm-hmm. Okay? All right. So again, this is Mr. John. We're going to just say JR. I'm tempted to say John JR, but we're just going to say JR for his preference. Yes. Yeah. And so we're going to get into what you are the founder of in a moment. But first, we want you to introduce yourself to the audience. Just tell them a little bit about who you are.
Well, I'm 64 years old. In about a week and a half, my wife and I will be celebrating our 44th wedding anniversary.
Woohoo! Wow, that's great. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. My wife is a very forgiving, patient, loving woman, so I'm a lucky man.
Okay.
We have 3 children, 5 grandchildren, live up in the Pacific Northwest, and I don't know, I've been a business owner, ministry founder, just a number of things.
Okay. So that is commendable. We are a little over, almost halfway mark of you. 23 plus years. We got married in 2000, so we're 23 plus years in. So we met another couple that had been married, I think it was 44 years as well. We interviewed another couple. So that number sounds pretty good to me. What do you say?
Yeah, it's a great number.
Yeah, so we want to jump right into it and talk about some of the things we discussed in a previous setting. You talked about there was a time when you felt you were misunderstood, overlooked, and spinning your wheels as a believer. And then something happened to shift your life. If you can tell us, the audience, a little bit about what that means to you.
Well, as far as being misunderstood, a lot of my personality is in leadership, and leadership has responsibilities and has a certain amount of obligations that you have to fulfill and so forth. So as a software developer and business owner in that industry, there's a certain amount of things you got to get done, and sometimes you can't be everybody's buddy, and sometimes you got to work late, sometimes you got to miss things, and so forth. So the misunderstood part really was, how does that aspect of who I am, how does that relate to the body of Christ? How does that show up in ministry? Okay, there are already church leaders, there are elders and deacons, and there's pastors and so forth. Where does my specific type of design as a leader, how does that fit? And so part of the spinning the wheels aspect of all that is, all right, well, where do I fit in the body of Christ? I have absolutely no desire to do what that pastor is doing. That is not my DNA. I don't see an opportunity. I don't see anybody actually discipling, ministering in that particular area. And so it was a matter of, how does a person that isn't in full-time ministry figure out what their full-time ministry is supposed to be? And that kind of leads to what you alluded to, was that shifting into a new season. And at some point in time, this was back in 2014-15, there's a series of things that happened at my software company. And by the end of 2015, I knew that I had to start to wind down that business. Mm-hmm. And part of that was no longer doing sales presentations, because ethically, I couldn't sell our software if I didn't know if I was going to be in business in 6 months or a year or so forth. So I found myself with a lot of time on my hands, since most of my responsibilities was in sales and marketing and management. And I just was frustrated. Mm-hmm. And I can remember sitting in the chair I'm looking at right now going, all right, God, I know you're behind this. What do you want? And I wasn't real happy with him, but it didn't really seem to matter. Some 50-something-year-old man, not being happy with God is probably not on his radar of things that would concern him in the least.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't the first time he heard that.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and hopefully it may be the last time for me, because I've actually learned through this process that what he had for me was much better, and I needed to be patient and obedient and willing to step up when he called me. So that kind of leads us to the beginning of the ministry.
Great. So you knew there was something missing, and I think we can both attest to that. I've been on this journey myself for quite a while, wondering what am I supposed to be doing beyond what I was doing. I even wrote a book about it called Destiny Takes Time. That's the way, God gave it to me. And I've been on that journey saying there has to be more, right, than what I was presently seeing, because I wasn't fulfilled. I'm sure you can say similar things, right?
No doubt.
And so when we were talking with you, to hear your story of how you morphed from software engineer to what you're about to explain now, I think it's truly a testament that it was destined for you to have that moment in time. Yeah, that epiphany. Because some people live their whole lives, as we've seen, and they just exist. They don't look beyond just, you go to work every day. They get into the grind of the normal things, and maybe some people just don't move beyond that. So if you can tell us, what did you do once you realized, okay, something's missing? Tell us a little bit about what you ended up founding, creating as a result of that.
Well, leading into that, I think there was two important understandings that led me to there's more to this. The very first one was joy. I saw that certain believers, there was an internal joy that they had, that they were experiencing, and I couldn't figure out why they had it and why I didn't. Why was what they were doing fulfilling for them and generating this joy, and why was what I was doing not? And it wasn't a matter of sin, it wasn't a matter of disobedience, it was simply a matter of they have something that I want, and I can't figure out how to get it. It didn't matter about giving, it didn't matter about studying the Word of God, it didn't matter about prayer. Those things in themselves were not getting me to where I knew I was supposed to be, and this is that aspect of joy. And then the other thing that you alluded to is about the people that are just existing and just sort of like getting through life. And there was an epiphany with me probably back 2015 or so, along the same period of time, where I was out this sales conference, and this speaker was talking about a vision board, a dream board, what do you want, and so forth. Now, they were going down a materialistic sort of approach. I want a new car, I want this, and so forth. And that really wasn't my motivation. But the experience, the exercise that we went through revealed to me that I don't dream. There was nothing that I was really aspiring for. I could care less about the better house or the big car or all that stuff. That didn't really motivate me. And I came to the realization that I was operating primarily off of duty, responsibility, and obligation. Okay, that I had a duty as a business owner. I had a responsibility as a father and a husband. I had these sort of drives that were forcing me to run this mouse wheel, over and over again, doing the grind and not getting anything other than a material temporary benefit from it. So all that led into 2016, when I was in this place where I had all this time in my hand, And towards the end of that year, an acquaintance reached out to me and said, "Hey, I teach this assessment program where you can really learn about people's personalities, and I think that you would be really good at it, and that'd be good for you."
Mm-hmm.
Now, he didn't really have an altruistic motivation there. It was expensive to do this, and my initial reaction was no, because I had been spending most of 2016 cutting expenses because I'm winding down this business, and that's no money coming in, money going out. That's a bad equation to
Always.
be
Always
living out. And so I told him no, but I felt this tug, and I couldn't really explain it. And I came to the decision that it was God, and the tug was do it. All right, well, fine. And so as a serial troublemaker, I insisted that my wife would go with me in this process, because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to have my absolute best aid along with me. And so we went through this process together, and it was within the first couple of classes that I realized that this was the most accurate sort of assessment that I've ever experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And as the courses went on and the months went by, I realized that even though that this has always been used in the corporate world, that it's really intended for the church. That the understandings and the way that this allows a person to see themselves and other people could really prevent disunity, could prevent division, could stop divorces, it could enhance all the relationships that are part of being a human being and being a member of the body of Christ. And at the point that I was sort of coming to that conclusion, I was reminded of my purpose statement, which was a byproduct of what we do. And the purpose statement that was developed for me was, I must strategically lead a gifted team to embrace the power of their God-given design for long-term positive results. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about that, and I go, if you're going to have a closer relationship to God, you got to do what He's asked you to do, what He's created you to do. And as soon as I answered that next question, which was, if you believe that, what are you going to do about it? And that's when Brush Fires was conceived at that moment. I recognized that my purpose was directly connected to how close of a relationship I was going to have with God. And that I wanted that relationship. I didn't know why, but I knew I wanted it. And then once that agreement in my life happened, where I said, yes, I want for myself what God wants for me, that's when the ministry was started, and it's been history ever since.
Wow.
Yeah,
but that's good. No, actually, because of the fact that I think there's a time in our life that we yearn for something that we don't have, and yearning for fulfillment, because of the fact that you were driven because of responsibilities and obligations. You didn't really have time you didn't take time out for yourself, because of the fact that you had to fulfill all of these assignments for other individuals. And then you said something very powerful, is that you found that you learned that you have not been dreaming. You haven't dreamed. You did not really make plans for yourself, or dream for yourself, or to find out what it is that you really want to do. JR, because JR was he was a performance guy, performing for everybody else around him.
Agreed.
And you had to make sure that everything was in place for other individuals to fulfill their responsibilities and obligations. And I think that's very important when you start doing introspection.
Yes.
And then you take an assessment of what you really have, what you've been performing, and then also and you have yearn for the joy that was missing in your life as well, because why are they so happy, why are they so joyful, why are they so feel as though they so complete, and I don't have that. Okay, so that was really an eye-opener, but also was transforming for you, but and then a ministry was birthed out of that, because of the fact that you look at the pastor as being the major leader, but you're still yet a leader in another capacity, but still yet you're in ministry, but not at the level as being the senior pastor of a church, but you still yet have the ability to minister to the body of Christ, and that's a desire that you have as well, and you never realize that until you start opening, God start revealing to you what you have on the inside that you have not yet tapped into. Is that correct? I know I said a lot.
No, you're right on track there, Daryl. Because see, when you start getting into that wheel, that grind of doing these things, you make you make commitments to your clients. You make commitments to your family about certain schooling or all these various other aspects, and then you have to perform to make sure that all happens.
Right.
And as a leader, it's not simply just your actions, but then everybody that you are leading, you're responsible for their actions too.
Right.
So it becomes a very consuming aspect where everything that you are is tied to your performance. It's tied to and it gets measured by any number of different aspects, like money or fame or whatever, and that gets a bit seductive. It's like, oh boy, I'm this big business owner and so forth, and so your mind starts resting there, even though it's not content there.
Yes.
Right.
And it took God ripping the company away from me. Even when I look at this, I'm absolutely convinced that there was nothing that I did as a leader other than be overly patient with certain employees that would warrant God taking the company away from me because of sin or something of that nature. It was He needed me to rip my identity away from being a business owner so that He could get me focused in being the ministry leader that He wanted me to be. And that's the difference, and that wasn't an easy transition. I'll be real frank with you. I wasn't real happy.
I'm sure.
But that was the reality of how all that happened. And now all those energies that I put into a commercial endeavor and to working with corporate leaders and so forth, I now am all in this ministry capacity. But the rewards, personally, as far as what I feel and the joy that I experience, are dramatically better.
Yes.
It's not, they don't go away as quickly as, a nice meal at a fancy restaurant.
Yeah, and I think that ties in, like I was saying before, our previous podcast, so make sure you check that out on Marriage Enrichment, the Bakers, on our YouTube channel. When our guests, and you can see when that's going to post, we're talking about imagination. We was talking about using your creativity, and how when you don't do those things, when you don't tap into the creativity God has given you and really tap into who you are, you can have so strong of a level of unfulfillment. And some people just kind of blow past it and be like, oh, this is just the way life is. But then there are some of us that it seems like sometimes God tugs on a little bit hard, like, no. You are not going to blow past this. I need you to do this. I need you to think about this. I need you to take an assessment of this. I just believe some of us, He really weighs heavy on, at least I'll speak for me, to say, you can't stay where you are. I have more for you.
And I think that's going to be based upon your level of commitment as well, and then how strong that you want to build your relationship with the Father as well. And so when He revealed things, some things you just can't shake, you can't overlook, you just can't walk away from. You have to really engage yourself in that, and then apply, and then just make yourself available, right? Because then you find yourself being more, you find yourself having joy if you make yourself available. And then the flip side of that, if you don't make yourself available, then of course you're going to suffer, you're going to suffer the consequences of that as well, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's depending upon how insistent God is that you're going to do what he wants you to do.
Yes, that's definitely.
So it may be ripping the company out of your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing that's I think is really cool is that not only did you want to do it for yourself, but you chose to expand it and make a whole company out of it so you can help other people to open their eyes.
Now that's fire right there.
Yeah,
okay?
it wasn't like, okay, I got it, it's mine now, and I'm just gonna just roll around in all this goodness and this joy and not share it. You were the complete opposite. You like, I have to share because I have to tell somebody what I discovered because it's so good. I can't let people suffer if they choose to want something different. Is that right?
Well, you're right exactly on that, because what I've discovered over the years of doing this is that whatever it is that God's delivered you from. So in my case, it was this frustration of not experiencing joy and fulfillment. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's one of the things that God delivered me from as a byproduct of this establishing the ministry. The ministry is all about getting everybody else to that same place. See, for a creative person, it is helping them figure out how their creativity plugs into the body of Christ. Mm-hmm. For a leader, it's how does your leadership plug in? For a counselor, it's how does your counseling plug in? For a teacher, for a helper, for a server, for whatever. It's helping all these people figure out where they fit into the body of Christ. And by doing that, whatever it is that God's designed them to do, I have absolutely no agenda as to what they do other than making sure it's what God wired them to do. Mm-hmm. That whole process delivers them to the same place that I arrived at. And that is what I believe that most ministries can be tied to you looking at what God delivered you from, mm-hmm. be it addiction, be it a struggling childhood, a failed marriage, whatever it is that God delivered you from. You then turn around and say, hey, you look like you're going through the same problem that I did. This is what God did for me. Mm-hmm. Okay? I mean, it's nothing different than the leper who got healed. And he went around telling, Jesus healed me.
Right.
So guess what? If you were a leper and you were in the area near Jesus, you got there as any way possible to be near Jesus so that you could experience the same salvation, the same restoration that the other leper experienced. Mm-hmm, well, mm-hmm. My leprosy was a lack of joy and fulfillment. Mm. And my gift back to the world with my ministry, if you will, is to help other people experience that joy and fulfillment by doing whatever it is that God has created them to do.
Right. So we could. You want me to go? So okay, I'll go. So we can go. You can go. I can go. But yeah, I was gonna say. So that kind of you can put that in summation, saying that everyone really has a purpose.
Agreed.
Some people, they just blaze past that. It's like everybody has a purpose in the earth. Some are small, some are great, but it all comes together if we all are choosing to realize, first of all, that we have a purpose and then we're pursuing it. Because you can get to the point where you say, I have one, but if you don't pursue it and then execute it, then you're still not moving. So I think that's very important for those that watch this. Know that without a doubt. Mm-hmm. No matter where you came from, background, family history, trauma, we was talking about dysfunctional family, it doesn't matter. You still, there's a reason you were, I like to say, seeded into the earth at this dispensation of time. Right? Because we're all, everybody's 1900s, we're in the 2000s plus, you know what I mean? So we were seated in this dispensation of time for a reason. And it's time for you, if you're listening to this, to make sure you are pursuing what that is. What do you think about that?
No, that's good. But the thing about it, you have to recognize and come to the realization to understand what it is that you were scheduled to do in the earth.
That's
right?
good. Schedule. I like that.
And then, and it comes a point in time in a man's life where he's taking responsibility for his action, but also understanding the position in which he in, because it takes maturity to come to the place and a level which you're really taking, personal assessment of who you are, what you have to offer, and the things of that nature, right? And one of the things you were saying, JR, is that you want to be able to, your issue was the lack of joy, right?
Agreed.
Lack of joy,
Right.
and then lack of fulfillment, right? So a lot of people are in church and they find themselves, they mimicking other ministers, they mimicking other leaders, they mimicking people around them, as opposed to finding out who they are, okay, and what they're supposed to be doing. And so you have a lot of people doing a lot of things, but are they doing it for the right reason?
That's good.
Right?
No, you're exactly right there, Daryl. In fact, it becomes unbelievably frustrating. I took that path at a certain point. They told me, okay, well, read your Bible and pray and attend church and give and so forth. And I did that stuff. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that stuff. And there is a benefit to doing all of that stuff. But the difference is this, is that the enemy does not want you to find your purpose.
Right.
Okay, so he has a lot of tactics to prevent you from discovering that.
Right.
Okay, one of the obvious ones we all talk about in church is sin. Okay, so if we can get you off into the sin track, we'll destroy a lot of things. Your family, your relationships, destroy it. Well, let's say that the sin thing is somewhat under control. It's not, it's not what defines you as a believer. All right, well then what we do is we do comparison. All right, well, I really like the way that person ministers, or I really like the way that they get respect, or I really like the applause that the worship leader gets, or whatever it happens to be. So then we compare ourselves and we start pursuing that because we believe that that's how we're going to get that fulfillment or joy and so forth. And so what happens is you have all these false paths that a person is tempted to pursue, and there's just one for them. And so part of what we do by getting rid of all of that comparison and going directly to your wiring and saying, all right, based upon this wiring, these are the choices that are most likely going to get you closer to God, get you to that relationship, and would be consistent with how your Creator wired you. See, it's not simply that we are here for a purpose, but God wired us for that purpose.
Yes.
And so if we can get our mind into sync with, all right, well, if God wired me, how did he wire me? Did he wire me as a carpenter? Did he wire me as a leader or teacher? How did he wire me? All right. Well, then once I know that, then these other choices that don't look like that wiring are no longer part of what I'm pursuing.
That's good.
I like that.
And then you start. Then your agenda becomes, all right, Lord, I think this is what you want me to do. I need a confirmation. I need a validation. And all of a sudden, he starts giving you some breadcrumbs. Yes, this is the right direction. Or you take that step of faith, and all of a sudden, we call them joy bombs, where your purpose, your destiny, is in exact alignment with what God is trying to do through you at that moment in time, and you experience that joy of being obedient to his call and producing the fruit that you were created to produce. The easiest example of this for any certainly lady to be able to understand is the act of going through childbirth. That aspect is so personal and is so important to God. Life is so important to God, so important that when that lady produces that child and that healthy child is given to her, The amount of labor that she went through, she's not thinking about that. The amount of back pain and muscle pain she went through for 9 months, morning sickness, anything. All she is thinking about is the beautiful baby that she is holding. One of the most joy-filled moments that a woman can experience, and that is because what she was created to do, she just accomplished it. Her agenda, her purpose, aligned with God's agenda at that moment in time, and the result was like a nuclear explosion of joy.
Yeah, that's good. And I think it's so important because we as marriage counselors work with couples that if we can get, especially engaged couples, let's start there. If we can get them to understand, we try to get them to understand, this is why you need to deal with your stuff, for lack of a better term, before you cross over into married land, right? And you're not going to be perfect. Now you're going to sweep out every, cobweb. But the point is, get to a place where you're whole and not broken, so that once you are married, right? First of all, you know who you are. You're moving towards the purpose. You know what you're hardwired, as you say, to be, so that once you get married, then if that person is doing the same thing or has done the same thing, then you have two people that are automatically going to be on a good path, because they're not. It's not this struggle or competition. I've seen marriages where there's competition. I asked my husband, how can a husband and wife be in competition? Let's be real. That doesn't even make any sense, because if the two are one, that means you're competing with your own self. I mean, but that has to do with people sometimes being broken and not recognizing who they are. And then when you recognize who you are, you stand up in that place, not arrogancy, but you stand up confidently about how God has made you, your spiritual DNA, your natural DNA, working together for you to walk out your time. Because if we talk about how God knows our beginning from our end, so he already knows what we're supposed to be doing. And like you said, because of sin sometimes, and most of the time, sin, it takes everything, your time, your energy, your talent. It gets you off course. It just takes you all over the place. And so you can lose so much time doing the wrong things.
Yeah.
Right.
I like the way you said, JR, about the hardwire. Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a wake-up call for me, right? And
Yes.
then as a software developer, you understand the software aspect of how systems work, and then also the hardware as well. So the hardware is part of the hardwiring, right? Mm-hmm. So if God hardwired us for a certain way, no matter what type of software that you put in there, what I mean by the plans of man, either thought process of the enemy, and if it does not communicate, with the hardwire, the software not communicating with the hardwire, then of course, there's going to be a lack of communication, because there's no protocol from the software to communicate properly to the hardwire, right? And so now the software has to come from God directly to soften your heart, so that you can actually be in compliance with the hardwire that He have made you to be. Isn't that a good analogy?
It is.
Yeah, no, I can see where you're going with that, and how frustrating for you to be living a life with the wrong software there, and I mean, that is your lack of fulfillment. That is what causes frustration and just almost a hopelessness. I'm trying so hard to make this work.
Right.
Why is it not working?
Right.
And it's like, well, you're reading off of the script that I wrote for Daryl, not for you, JR.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
Charlotte, you mentioned something with regards to like couples counseling, and I would like to add in something to that. I agree with you as far as your stuff. We all have stuff. I refer to that as the sanctification process. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of stuff to work through, each and every one of us. But there are some things that the enemy exploits based upon our hard wiring. So one of the assessments that a person would go through, a couple would go through in our program, is called temperaments, and it's how your mind works. It's just you're wired a certain way in how you focus your attention, how you gather information, how you evaluate information, and how you make decisions. So let's talk about the decision-making one, because this one is probably one of the easiest ones for people to relate. There are people like me that are high planners. Okay, I'm 100% planner, 0% adapter. No, I can adapt. If I plan to adapt, I can adapt, but it's not my natural go-to. So let's say that you have a couple, and she is 80-90% planner, and you got a husband who is 80-90% adapter. Now, he's driving home, and he knows that his wife is going to have their meal, and it plans, and the family is going to sit down together and have a meal at 6 o'clock. And it's really important to his wife that the family have together. Nothing wrong with that. It's a great thing. And if you don't plan the meal and you don't make sure that everybody is on the same page, you're going to have, nobody's going to show up. So she's planned this family experience on Fridays or whatever day it is, or maybe every day. And he's driving home, and he's this adapter. And along the side of the road in Atlanta, in the middle of the heat, he sees a single mother with 2 kids on the side of the road with a flat tire. And cars are whizzing by and nobody's stopping. Now he's an adapter. And based upon that design, God can whisper in his ear, go, help her. And he'll pull over. And he'll change that tire. He'll get them all situated. And then, get back in his car and look at it and go, oh God, it's 6:45. My wife's going to kill me. Okay, so who's at fault there? The wife had a really good thing as a planner. She wanted the family to eat together. And the husband maybe saved the lives of a mother, not getting run over by a car on the side of a busy freeway. They were both doing good things. But the difference was, if the wife understood that that's the nature of her husband, is to help people and to adapt to the situation. And if the husband understood his wife going, she's really planned this meal and she's been really making a big effort about this, and it's really rude. One small thing, before he gets out of that car to go help that lady, he picks up the phone and he goes, hey, sweetheart, there's this lady here stuck on the freeway and nobody's helping her. I got to get her off this freeway. I'm going to be a little bit late. Just that understanding of design. Because he's always going to be that adapter and she's always going to be that planner. But if they could simply appreciate and respect what both of them bring to the table, now you don't have an angry wife sitting there for an hour, stomping her foot, waiting for him to come in the door, because she's about to let him have it. Okay, now you got a wife who's saying, boy, I'm really proud of my husband. If that was me, I wish somebody would have stopped and helped me.
Yes. Yeah, that's a part of being flexible. And like you said, understanding and mature, but being flexible and understanding, like you said, your spouse in that particular example.
That's true.
And not being so rigid.
Right.
And not being selfish.
Right.
Because it's not always about, we're kind of hardwired in a negative way to always, it's about me. It's not always about us. Right? It's not. It really isn't. I mean, it's like come out the womb. It's kind of like, because a baby, of course, they're a baby. They have to be taken care of. And so if you don't teach them as they grow, they're going to think it's always about me. I can get everything I want when I need it. No, we're doing that for a season because you couldn't do anything for yourself. But life is not like that as you grow. You have to give and sacrifice, right? Now, one question I wanted to ask, how did you come up with the name Brush Fires?
Okay, so I would love to take credit or that we did some kind of great research. that moment where I said, all right, if you really believe that that's your purpose, then what are you going to do about it? And I decided that I was going to write the curriculum for this to be used in the church. God just gave it to me.
Okay.
It was, and you're going to call it Brush Fires.
Good.
And so Yeah, I can't take any credit for it. It came out of my head somehow, but it wasn't me. It wasn't my whispering that brought it. So.
Well, that's good. I mean, revelation. I mean, that's important. You know, we don't know everything. You know, God is omniscient. He knows all things. So again, that's a part of he's saying, okay, I need Junior to make sure, JR, I said Junior, I meant JR, to tap into what the revelation that I'm releasing, and I needed to be called this. So that's still tapping into what God wants us to do, our purpose. How we going? Because our purpose should truly be affecting not just us, but others. We're not in this one little utopian world where it's just us. What we do should impact people in a positive way. That's the goal, positive manner. On some level, whether it's community, whether it's a city. Some people, it may affect people nationally, internationally. Everybody doesn't have the same assignment, but it should impact others. You agree, babe?
Absolutely agree.
Yeah. So that's great.
It's sort of interesting because there's something that happened to me back in 2001, a dream or vision, whatever you want to call it. And I can't go into that now, but it rocked my world. It was like, all right, that was God. What am I supposed to do with this? It really, for a guy who is very confident and all about order and structure, and it hit me and it knocked me on my back. So years later, I'm still trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do with this revelation? And I shared it online with this prophetic group, believers, and this one guy had a word of knowledge. And his word of knowledge, and he was also an artist, so if you go onto our Brushfire site, you'll actually see the piece of art that he produced. But he saw me on this shore of water, like early morning, and I'm standing there, and inside me is this flame, and it's there, and I'm standing there for a moment, and all of a sudden God says, now's the time is now. And then there was a pause, and then I took a step forward. When I took a step forward, all of a sudden my entire countenance, my entire body was consumed like a burning bush, not burnt up, but engulfed in this flame. And everything I touched burst into flames. So as I was writing this curriculum and I was teaching this course, this kept coming, this word of knowledge from 2004 kept coming back to me, and I realized I'm actually doing what that says. Okay. The hesitation was this 2016 period of time and the beginning of the ministry. And then I started moving forward in God's purpose, and the lives that we are touching through the ministry are now being engulfed, and it's the multiplication, it's the spreading of a brush fire. And that's the name of the ministry made a lot more sense when I look back from that perspective, is that God's going to use the ministry to multiply fires in his children to be able to grow and to impact this world. And his timing is perfect because we really need it right now. So, amen.
Yeah, that is great. So your focus is, as we try to bring this to an end, is to get in touch with anybody who's willing to hear this message, whether you're married, unmarried, anybody that's kind of been, whatever your thing is. You know, yours was a lack of joy. People, like I said, may have been in dysfunctional families. Whatever it is. This is for anybody, correct?
Absolutely. The ministry is overtly Christian, so that part of that needs to be addressed first. You need to know that you are born again. That is a prerequisite. But short of that, it doesn't matter your age. We've ministered to people as young as 15, as old as their mid-80s. There is no expiration date on your purpose. It is always waiting for you. It is always waiting for you to walk into. And here's the thing, God knows when that is. And so maybe it takes a ministry like ours, and you're 65 years old, and you're wondering what you're going to do in your golden years, well, maybe it's now that you've accomplished success and status, maybe it's now it's time to go for significance and actually do something for the kingdom.
And one of the things we tell, this statement, I didn't create it, but the statement is, we would ask couples sometimes in counseling, what is one of the most expensive pieces of real estate anywhere? And they would ponder and they would think, and we would tell them the answer is simply the graveyard. Because so many people die unfulfilled, having poured out. And so I think what we do, what you do, I think is similar in that we want people to live their, as they say, their best life. We want people, and the only way you're going to do that is if you talk to the Father, let him tell you his plans, and he can laugh at yours, but let him tell you his plans so that you don't leave, because all of us have to leave the earth. That's just the way it is. But let's leave poured out. Let's leave fulfilled. Let's leave impacting others like what you're doing at Brush Fires. Let's leave knowing that we've done what we were supposed to do. Even if we got off focus, even if we got off course, we have done what we're supposed to do. The other question before we wrap this up, how long is your program? Is it like a certain amount of time or over a lifetime? How do you do it?
So the workshop itself is 8 sessions, and we teach it live here in the Pacific Northwest, but we are literally a month, maybe a month and a half away from releasing this on a digital platform.
Good.
In fact, we've just finalized our spiritual gifts section and our worship and praise section. That's going to be uploaded on the site. It's Brush Fires Digital is the site. It's not launched yet, so it's not quite ready to for everything. But people can go to our primary website, which is brushfires.group, and they can go into the contact page and just register and say, hey, when you guys release that digital workshop, I want my small group to go through that. I want my congregation to go through that, because those 8 sessions have all been recorded and are now available for people to use in a small group. The assessments are online. The books are available. All that can be done and facilitated in a church, in a small group, in a business, in any capacity like that. So brushfires.group, and they can just simply go to the contact page and say, hey, I'm interested in that digital workshop when you guys release it, and we'll keep you there.
Yeah, so we have that scrolling on the bottom of the screen, so make sure you check out that for with Mr. JR. I think is invaluable. And then this other piece about the first release of your digital, that's the part 2 that you said, the 3 guides. So that's a YouTube clip or video. I looked at a little bit of it. Just briefly tell us what that is, the 3 guides.
So 2016, when I'm going through that time of what's God doing, I wrote a lot of short stories and poems. And the 3 guides is a story basically of I didn't know it at the time. God does this to me. I write something, and then years later, I look back and go, oh, that's what that meant. So the 3 guides story is a story of being lost in fog and not being able to figure out how to get out of this mess. And then all of a sudden God sends somebody named Trust, that you have to trust God to be able to deliver you out of that fog, that wandering. And Trust leads you to Faith, who is another guide, a stronger demonstration of that trust. And then ultimately it leads you to Hope. And Hope is like, all right, there really is a place. And I don't want to give away the ending of the story.
Yeah, leave that as a surprise.
Yeah, but I do want people to understand that God is going to meet you when you trust Him where you're at in your own personal fog. And He's going to deliver you out of that as you trust and build and strengthen that faith. One last thing. I was reading a devotion about this small town in Europe where this little town gets like maybe an hour of sun all day long because they're at the bottom of this valley with all these high mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to walk all the way to the top of the mountain to be able to see more than an hour of sun. That was the motivation, the inspiration that I had to start writing the story. And I wrote it from start to finish in one continuous sitting without knowing how it was going to end.
Mm.
That story is for every one of God's children to be able to embrace, because that story is for them as it was for me. Because God's going to lead you. God's going to lead you, and if He has to use some guy out of the Pacific Northwest, then glory be to God, because I'm glad He'll use us.
Well, we're grateful that God allowed us to meet the man out of the if I can get it out, Pacific Northwest. I can't even get my words. We're grateful to have met you and want to definitely stay connected because your message, your story, your journey, what you want to do to help people, get on the right path so they will leave here. They poured out everything before we close our eyes for the very last time is so important. So we appreciate, I can see us hopefully collaborating on some things. You have something else you want to say?
I got one question for you.
Yes.
One question, okay, because of the fact that I see how impactful that your program can be. Have you thought about, or have you put in place a marketing campaign about how you're going to reach the leaders over God's people, right? Because the leaders basically can be instrumental of getting people to where they need to be and hearing from the Father as well.
Yes,
so
that's good.
Well, being prepared for that meeting and actually getting past their Praetorian guards of administrators that you can't actually talk to the leaders. Part of this is the interviews like yours, but we've actually written leadership training so that we can duplicate ourselves because we really want the leaders of the church to gain the benefits of people ministering in their giftedness, and who better to lead them and to disciple them. So this past year we released 3 new books. The graduate training workbook, as well as a mentoring manual. And we are working with local churches and Christian businesses now as we speak in preparing conferences and going through leadership training. So we are in the midst of that part, Daryl, already, but thank you for bringing it up. As far as actually getting the ear of the pastor, that's a hard thing to do. They have to, hopefully somebody will share your podcast with them or will share the results of their purpose statement and, begin to open up those doors. We would certainly take all the assistance in that area as possible.
Absolutely.
Well, again, we want to thank you. We don't want to hold you any longer. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to do this podcast with us, because I said we talked to a lot of different people, but we really thought this aligned with what we desire to do, to bring awareness to the population that we talk to. And I think it's such a great thing. So make sure you check out brushfires.group to get more information about Mr. Rennie, and also you can go back and rewind if you want to catch that YouTube link that we have there. But if you have nothing else, babe, you want to add, I think we're ready to release him.
No, I don't have anything else to add. This is a great opportunity to hear what's in your heart, and also thank you for sharing it as well, and understanding your purpose, and also the hardwire of who we are as individuals, and then what do we do with that once we come into the knowledge of that. So, and you have tools that's available for individuals to be able to reach out and to be able to understand themselves a little bit better. So thank you.
All right, so we're going to release you. Again, thank you so much. And we'll be talking soon. Yes, we'll be talking soon. Make sure you check them out on Brushfires. Yes, brushfires.group. We'll be talking soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, yes, we just finished a great podcast, wouldn't you say? with Mr. Rennie Jr. We are appreciative of him taking time to talk with us. And so we're going to end this podcast. Again, we want to thank you for joining us.
Yes.
On this podcast, Truth for Daily Living. Anything else you want to add, babe? Make sure you, comment, like, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. All of them. It's a bunch of them. So we're on Twitter. You can find us there. We're on IG. We're on, we're going to post this primarily on the YouTube channel, Marriage Enrichment, The Bakers. And also, really quickly, we wanted to mention, if you are in need of in counseling, whether you're engaged or married already, and you need some assistance, right? We have something coming up real soon here, and it is, let me pull that up for you. It is a marriage course recipe cohort, and the website for that is Marriage Course Recipe for Success. That's on the screen. And basically, you just need to go to that site. You can get more information. And as soon as that date opens, you'll see it, the clock ticking on that website. Then you need to get in there, because we're only going to allow so many couples, because we want to keep it very intimate. So make sure you go to marriagecourserecipe.com. Okay. Let me do that again. Marriage Course Recipe for Success.com. Also, we do something because we like to connect. Do different things with couples. Another service is Tablescape Rendezvous for Two. I have to hum that right. So basically, we could just come and pop up in your backyard, on your back deck. We can do it in a park. And this is another way we get couples to spend time, intentional time together, right? Mm-hmm. While we have conversational pieces, we have charcuterie boards, things like that, so that couples can have time together, okay? So make sure you also, again, go to our YouTube channel, Marriage Enrichment The Baker. I'm going to say it again, YouTube channel, Marriage Enrichment The Baker, and see what we're doing. We have other podcasts that are going to be loading weekly, so make sure you check that out. Also, we have books we've written. Oh my goodness, so many books. I mentioned one of the books, one of my first books actually, is Destiny Takes Time. All of our books are available on Amazon. You just have to really kind of Google our name. We have a book called Marriage Takes Three that's related to married couples, but singles can also read it. I've written a prayer book. I've written a children's book, if you can believe. So we have a lot of books that are available on Amazon. Okay? So if nothing else, honey, our website, enrichmymarriage.com. That's our main website. So go there. You can find everything we've talked about, excluding the marriage course cohort. That you need to go directly to marriagecourserecipeforsuccess.com. And if that's it, babe, I think we're going to end it there.
That is it.
That is it. Remember, everyone has a purpose, right?
Absolutely.
Single or married, you have a purpose. You were, as he said, hardwired to impact someone, a community, something in the earth while you're in this dispensation of time. So don't miss your opportunity, okay? Don't miss the opportunity to leave your mark, in the sense of, yes, you can leave the earth poured out. All right. So I'm Charlotte.
I'm Daryl.
And we are the Bakers. And we're going to be posting again some more podcasts. So go to our link tree and any of our social media so you can see which days these different podcasts will be released. And we'll be talking to you soon.
All right.
Peace is the Bakers. Hey, it's Charlotte.
And I'm Daryl.
And we are the Bakers. And we're here with another episode of Truth for Daily Living. And we have a very interesting guest tonight, her and her spouse. So as soon as we get back from our commercial, we're going to jump right in, okay? All right, so we're going to bring them on up to the stage, and they are here. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I'm gonna
It's an honor
say.
to meet you.
Yes, I'm going to say doctor and doctor. I know Dr. Paula, but I'm going to say doctor anyway to Dr. John, if that's okay.
No, we don't. So
We don't play that.
I didn't earn
He
it.
didn't go to school for it. No.
You said forget that. Okay, well then rewind. Pastor John and Dr. Paula.
I didn't go to one of those diploma mills to get one for free. No, I'm still working on mine. I'm going for my master's. So.
Okay,
Okay.
well, I was
Great.
doing it out of honor, but it's okay. I mean,
Yeah, no.
It's okay.
The pastor is big enough title.
okay, I got you. So again, we are Daryl and Charlotte Baker, and we're here with Truth for Daily Living, another installment in our podcast. And we had, as we said before the commercial, 2 guests that we're happy to talk to during this episode. So we're going to let them get started and introduce herself, and then her husband can introduce himself, and then we're going to go from there. So go ahead and take it away, Dr. Paula.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Paula C. Perez. I am an author, a speaker, a relationship coach, a pastor's wife, a PK. So I've done it all. And one of my missions is to support singles that are determined to date God's way.
Okay.
That's great.
Great.
Makes it so simple.
Yes.
So I am Pastor John Perez. I am the pastor of FT Church, or what we call is Family Transformation, where we're looking to transform. Transform families one person at a time. We are really into the transforming of lives and really dealing with people at their where they are, and so we're just grateful that we have this opportunity, and we are just looking to together. We are stronger together. We're better together. We're a formative team together, and God has placed us together to do this mission work. So we're just grateful for this opportunity.
Great.
That's great.
So how long have you been married? Tell the audience.
Almost 13 years. It'll be
Awesome.
13 years in December.
Awesome.
Very good.
We have been married. How long, babe? I know you know.
23 years.
23 plus years. So we're grateful as well to be on this journey together. I'm sure you are as well. So you've been married 13 years. And one of the things that caught my attention when we were looking for guests to interview, what caught my attention was the name of that book. The 49-Year-Old Virgin. So that kind of speaks volumes, but tell us a little bit about your book.
Sure. It is a memoir, and I wrote it, or the catalyst for writing it is I was turning 60.
Mm-hmm.
And at my 60th birthday, I really thought about, it was in the middle of COVID, and I really thought about, oh my God, if I die, who's going to tell my story? Which really got me moving. So on my 60th birthday, my wish for that year is that I would complete the book by the time I was 61, and God allowed me to do that. Finished it 3 days before my 61st birthday. And the book is a memoir. It's a love story. It is a story of transformation and healing. It's a story that is hopeful, and a story that I believe is inspiring for those that are on this journey of singlehood. At the age of 16, I made the decision not to have sex until I got married. I actually signed a contract with my dad.
Wow.
But at 16, as a teenager, of course, I just assumed my life would mirror that of my parents. They got married shortly after finishing college, or actually the senior year of my mom's college career. They eloped a couple of months before graduation. So I assumed my life would be the same. That was not the case. 33 years later is when the Lord brought me this man.
Mm-hmm.
But the memoir talks about all of my experiences. There were times when I remember I had a younger brother that got married first, and feeling like, really, Lord? I'm the eldest. I'm supposed to go first. And then I had other siblings, and there are times when I would literally feel like, are you kidding? They got a husband and I didn't. I'm more this, I'm more that. And then I went through a season where that was my pursuit. My God was finding a husband. And I think I got a little reputation for that as well. And dated several of the wrong men. In fact, was engaged. And that is quite a story that is in the memoir. You gotta read that.
Gotta read that.
But thank God, I woke up one night in the middle of the engagement. You know, the news reports had gone out that we were getting married. Invitations were the only thing we had left to do. And I woke up in a panic, feeling like I can't marry this man. So I broke it off. One of the most painful things I've ever done, but God knows it was the right thing. Thank you, Jesus. So the memoir really goes through all of the seasons of why, Lord, how come I'm not married? What's wrong with me? To, you know what? I really like my single life. I traveled, I got my doctorate, I started organizations, I worked with kids, I just had a wonderful time. And I think once I got things aligned, I had the Lord first and not the pursuit of the man. And then had my priorities straight, I was complete and whole in myself. That's when the Lord sent a feeling that I'm going to be married. So I started the book off by saying I was running a retreat for our church. My dad's a pastor, and I was in charge of the retreat. And at the retreat, I said to the women, not even thinking, but like blurted it out, I'm going to be married in the year. And I had a close girlfriend that said, what, to who? Because I wasn't dating anybody. Nobody was on the radar. And then I literally started preparing for a wedding. I saved up, I got in shape, I did all the things. And then maybe 5 months after that event, we ran into one another, and as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, but there's a sidebar.
What's the sidebar, Pastor?
There's a sidebar that she it's not in the book, but I'll give you it for today. So right after that event happened, the best man at my wedding the best man at our wedding, his wife was at the event. She was on her way back, my phone rings, and she had made this declaration about getting married. So she calls me and she said, have you ever considered Paula? I said, are you kidding me? I said, Paula who? She says, Paula Taz. I said, no. And lo and behold, she was trying to play matchmaker in November, but the light didn't go off until God said it was time. And
that was in the following June.
And that was the following June. So it was kind of ironic that, and as a matter of fact, when they did their wedding renewal, they had me to have words, and that was one of the things I had to thank her for, because it was that was really the catalyst of me rethinking, of saying, wait a minute, why wouldn't I? But I wasn't in the right space and in the right place to be able to accept that message at the time.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, a couple of months before that retreat, that was November, that previous September, a couple of months before that, we had a prophet come to our church. And as a pastor's kid, I'm used to people calling my parents and saying, can we, the Lord has given me a word, I want to preach. And really, they just want to preach.
Right.
So I remember my brother was the lead pastor at the time. And my father said, I'll have to call my son and see if that's okay. So when he was getting ready to call my brother, I said, tell him, just say no, don't have him come. And my father said, oh, she ain't talking in the spirit, ignore her. So that day, at the end of the service, we were getting ready to wrap up. He had preached, the service was really high. He starts to say, is there a street named Magic? The Lord is saying Magic. And that was the street that my parents and my sister and I had a niece, that's where we lived. So we went up. To make a very long story short, he in essence said to my father, the Lord is working on your son-in-law.
And he was.
And he's going to be, the favor of God is on him, but he will be more successful because of the favor that's on your daughter. So that's a summary of what he said. It's in the book. It is definitely in the book.
Yeah.
And my sister and I both were not married, but I just claimed it. I just believed that was my word. And again, in that November retreat is when it really took root. And I said, I am going to be married. I just believe that's what God is saying.
And I think that's so apropos with the title of the podcast, Receiving the Promise and God's Timing.
Yeah.
And we have somewhat of a similar story in that, I don't know if you want to say, we can relate to it not being the right time. So we met at the same company. At the time. We both worked at a law firm. I had been there 10 years. He had been there about 2 or 3 years.
2 years.
And we would see each other in the hallway and we would just run past each other and I would just say, oh, he's so weird. And he would say, oh, she's so weird. He told me, she's so weird.
Yeah.
And he said he never saw me. I'm going to let you take it from that. He said he really never saw me. And then what happened?
I thought she was weird because of the fact that I would see her in the hallway. I would speak to her. Sometimes I would remember her name, and some other times I would completely forgot it. Didn't remember. It seemed like when I spoke to her, it seemed like she started running down the hallway, and I'm like, this lady is weird. But at any rate, and I was working there for 2 years, and then after the second year, something happened basically, and then I saw her for the first time. Really saw her for the first time. Then I asked her out. I asked her out in an email with all these out clauses as well. And it said, if you need to bring a friend, you can bring a friend. So we went out. We went to our first date. That was April the 15th, 1999.
He gets snaps for that. I remember.
And we went to Olive Garden.
Yeah, right.
Olive Garden. And
Olive Branch.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and it kind of went from there. And
literally,
so,
yeah.
And from that point on, from the time that we dated in April, I proposed to her in October of 1999, and we got married March of 2020.
So we met, we dated, we went to 3 sets of counselors.
Yes.
Because in our case, we had both been married before. And we went to 3 sets of counselors and then got married within 10 months.
We beat you.
Yeah, you beat us. You beat us.
We beat you.
Yeah,
we knew each other from church circles. He attended. My father was superintendent, which in our church organization means you have responsibility or oversight for other churches. So he went to a sister church. I knew him, and similar to you all, didn't pay him any mind. In fact, he got on my nerves.
Yes, I do.
I remember when I first got my doctorate, he called me Paula, and I said, that's Dr. Paula to you.
Ooh.
That type of relationship.
A reminder that I was Elder John Perez instead of John. So I said, we completed that game, and hey, that's just the way it was.
So we went on our first date. He saw me for the first time, June 26th, a Saturday. And I write about that, how I felt driven to go to this church service and actually missed my ride. My parents were going, my father was in charge of it, and he said, you can ride, but you got to be on time. I overslept, and they left me. And I was so driven to get there, found a ride, got down there, and that's the service where he saw me. He called me the following Monday. We went out the following Saturday. Then I went away for 3 or 4 weeks, asking the Lord, what are you doing?
Yep.
I know what I said, but I didn't think it would be him. And if it's him, you gotta give me a love for this man, because he wasn't on my list. Let me just say that.
He wasn't either. He was. I never saw. In fact, it's so funny. I mean, this is how God works sometimes. But I remember we were going to like events. I think it was the end of the year event, and I went with friends, for the holidays. And literally, he walked across her truck. I was riding home with another coworker, and Daryl walked across her truck, and she said, out of the blue, "What about Daryl? He's a nice guy." I'm like, psh, please, it's like I didn't even think twice about it. Lo and behold, that was my good thing. I had no clue because I had no kind of attraction or anything. Nothing was sparking for me at the moment.
Exactly.
It just wasn't time.
In fact, there's a section in my book that says throw out the list.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep maybe one thing. Like one of my things, my daddy, who's deceased now, he said, if a man doesn't have clean nails and clean shoes, keep walking. Now, that was two things I never lost. This man right here, from the moment I met him, his nails were always impeccable and his shoes were always super, super nice and clean. So I kept those two things on my list because that actually, it made a difference for me. What did you say, Pastor?
That paid off.
Yeah, that paid Yeah, so I think it's, go ahead.
No. I think it's important that we listen. I think our parents do give us advice, but I think that, our Heavenly Father gives us the greatest advice. And I think that if we're open to that and we're not closed to it, look, she could have just said, I'm going to go my own route. I'm going to do what I want to do because I wasn't on her list. She wanted a chocolate man. I am not that. Okay. She had a list of things that she wanted, but God knew that. Let's throw out the list because it's more important if you come together because of what I needed and
our purposes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's really where that's what makes the distinction between getting married outside of God's will and getting married inside of God's will. And it's not to say that you're not going to have problems, because you're still bringing two people together that need to come together and learn how to be together.
Yes.
And that takes time. And it's still, we're learning and we're still fostering a great relationship. But one of the things that God gave me was a confidant. With everything that I had gone through in my earlier life and my first relationship with, and of which we have 3 children, and they range in from 35 to 25. But one of the things I needed was somebody that I could talk to, somebody that I could trust. Somebody. It took me a long time to let my guard down, to let the walls come down. And God knew I needed that. And it was that we have seen that has made me better as a man, as a father, and as a husband because of what God had in her that I needed, and vice versa.
And what do you have to add to that?
I would say it sounds like that she challenged you in some areas that you were not necessarily willing to deal with. And so you had to step up to the plate, and also you had to get rid of the walls that was built basically because you were protecting yourself from past events, so to speak, right? And exactly. So you needed someone to speak directly to your heart and to help you to deal with those bottled up emotions and those repressed pains, so that you can get past that, and then also receive the healing that you need in order to have that relationship that was going to allow you to come into your purpose of being together.
Can you relate? You said that because he's speaking from experience, aren't you?
Absolutely can relate to that. Because the fact that my wife, she's the one person that I would say is the most judgmental person that I've ever met in my entire life.
Judgmental or non-judgmental?
Non-judgmental.
Okay.
Non-judgmental.
Wait. Hold on.
Non-judgmental.
I'd like to flip it. Can I be the interviewer now? I got some questions on that.
Okay. No, non-judgmental. Okay, and on the real tip as well, because the fact that she is a person that's merciful. She always give a person the element of a doubt, and she helped balance me as well, because I'm the person that would be very judgmental. Okay, she's non-judgmental, and she helped me in a lot of areas in my life of really taking time out to look at a situation and look at the perspective on differently. And so I really enjoyed her. I like the fact that our home is peaceful. She's a person of peace. She's trustworthy, and she's family oriented. So she helps completes me. She really helped me in many ways. And so it's that right there is priceless, so to speak. So if God connects you with your soulmate, the person that you're supposed to be with, regardless of what you have experienced in your past life, it's still yet worth it, and it's honorable to have such, precious relationships.
Yes.
It's so important that you say that. And for singles, that's one reason why I stress the importance of them trying to become whole and complete before the relationship. So I'm so glad I had worked on myself. I'm so glad that I was rooted in the Lord, because all of those things I needed in order to minister to my husband.
Right.
And I remember before we got married, and by the way, it took us 4 months.
Oh, okay. You beat us. Okay.
Our first day was June 26th.
Okay.
I literally ran. You got to read the story in the book. I literally ran after the first
day
date.
was July 3rd.
What did
Okay.
I? Oh, July 3rd. I'm sorry. I saw him on June 26th. He's the date man.
He's the date man.
He's the date man. And then the first Wednesday in that August was when I returned, and I really felt like I was shot by Cupid's arrow. It was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
How gone I was. In fact, my good girlfriend, who at the retreat said, "Who you gonna marry?" She witnessed the whole thing. She came up to me after a church service where we were together and said, "What was that? I saw a change in you."
My pastor saw it. Let's put it that way. I was up speaking that night at a service, and
At my dad's church.
at her father's church, and he was watching Paula, as they would say to a conversation, leaning in.
I was gone.
Yeah, no, it was. I didn't even know where she was sitting. I was more concerned about the message than those that were out there. And he'd watch her. He came up to me after the service. He goes, "What's wrong with Paula? Why is she looking at you like that?" I said, "Pastor, I don't know. I just got done ministering. How do I know?"
And after the service, I went up to him and gave him a big hug and said, "Oh, my friend."
Yeah.
And my girlfriend saw the whole thing and came up after. But we were married from that point 4 months. We got married December 18th the same year.
So that was the transformation that taken place from I don't know until I absolutely know.
Exactly.
Yeah, she knew. She was gone.
Exactly.
So-
she was done.
So what could you tell singles? Because I remember, being single, because I was single before, because like we said, both of us were married prior, terrible relationships, God healed us. And that was the key thing I wanted to bring up too, that if you have been married before, first of all, don't be condemned by it. Okay. God is a forgiving God. He understands. Go down that process. But I went through a process of healing over 7 years. And I still tell singles, I say, listen, I dealt with Charlotte. Because I went from my mother's house to somebody's house I shouldn't have went to, in marriage. I was too young. One of the things. But the main thing was that person wasn't ready, and I probably really wasn't ready. But the fact remains, it was 7 years, literally, from the time that was over till I met him. And God so greatly dealt with me. And I'm so grateful that I allowed him. Because see, I tell singles, it's the key. You have to allow God to work on you, to fine tune you, to let you go through the fire, to really melt off the things that if you do want to get married, because everybody maybe doesn't, but if you do, you need to be a better you, authentically be you. And that only happens through really God the Father telling you who you are. It's like I see a lot of singles, they want to bypass God. I'm like, hold on. First of all, he's the creator. He knew you before the annals of time. Okay. Before you was a seed in your mother's womb, he knew who you would be. So how can you bypass him when he's the one that is your true creator, right? And then when you have difficult relationships in the past, but you haven't dealt with the challenges you face, the trauma, the pain, the rejection, then you take all of that into the new relationship and you wonder why it's not working.
Exactly.
I could preach a whole sermon on that, but so I know you understand that. As when you're talking to single ladies, trying to, I'm sure, get them to the point where they understand they have to deal with themselves. So tell us a little bit about that.
That totally is one of the things. I do a coaching program, and I'm in the process of ramping up a new program, and I talk about 4 steps that they need to take. And STEP is an acronym that stands for show yourself some love. T is trust in the Lord. E is learn to enrich others. And then the P is pursue your purpose. So just like you said, I really believe, first of all, the Lord is more concerned about our character than he is our comfort.
Yes, ma'am.
And when we don't deal with childhood issues, when we don't get resolution on those types of relationships, the Lord allows us to keep meeting the same person in a different body. Because he wants you to pass that test.
Yes.
He wants you to learn how to deal. He wants you to forgive. He wants you to change your behavior. He wants you to become more like him. So he will allow things to happen in our lives that will sharpen us, that will, smooth us out, make all those rough edges smooth. And I tell singles, just like you said, we've got to do the work ourselves. And every day on Instagram and LinkedIn, and when I remember Facebook, I post a daily tip. And ironically, today's tip was the importance of embracing yourself and learning to love yourself and making sure whoever you connect with can love all of you.
That's good.
All of you. You know what I mean? And I have seen so many women try to become a chameleon and become what they think their partner wants.
Right.
Instead of living in their authentic self. They think by playing a role that they're going to be able to keep a guy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's too much work.
Yes.
Too much energy.
Over so long,
Yes.
So definitely, I talk about the importance. Many of us don't love ourselves. And how can we possibly give to somebody else love if we haven't dealt with ourselves and truly, truly love ourselves?
Yes.
I remember being in the car one time and my father said, can't you sit in silence? What, you don't like yourself? You can't sit with yourself and your thoughts? And I have to remind myself of that from time to time because I love noise. It's a filter for me.
Okay. So does the book you just released, Boundaries, how is that connected to the 49-Year-Old Virgin, the book? Are those two connected in any way?
They are definitely connected. There is a chapter in the book when John and I are now together, and we were riding down one of the back roads, and he was, saying, almost like talking to himself out loud. He said, oh, the Lord has just given me almost everything I wanted. And I said, almost? What do you mean almost? And he said, well...
That's in the book, huh?
It is in the book. He said, well, I was praying for a virgin. And I said, well, what makes you think I'm not? He literally stopped the car and got out praising the Lord. And then when he got back in essence, asked me, how'd you do it? And the Lord gave me for the book this acronym. I'm big on acronyms.
Yes.
I'm an educator.
Yes, you're educator. Yes.
Sure, I can't help myself. So Boundaries is a acronym that I used to talk about the things that the Lord did for me to help keep me on the straight and narrow.
But I think, Charlotte, the other thing is, and I'm sure Daryl can attest to it, is that it's not just a woman issue. I think it's look, both people need to be prepared. Both people need to seek God. Both people need to look for transformation. Both people, if they need healing, to ask for it. Don't think, that if you're broken, that the next person is going to fix you. You got to come in with a mindset that, look, I've been healed and I'm ready to have a relationship. And don't think that the other person is going to be the answer. I think you've got to go to God and say, Lord, I need you to heal me from the inside out. Prepare me for whom you want me to be with, because I can't go in broken. and thinking that they're going to be the doctor that's going to stitch me up.
Right.
And then all I've done is handicap the relationship going in. And what it causes is a greater dependency. And then you really lean so much on that person that they can wear them out. And so it's got to be, when you're coming in. And the other thing is, I would tell any singles, look, you need to be honest with them up front.
Oh, yes.
You need to put all your cards on the table. If your credit score sucks, say something. If you've got health issues, say something.
Mm-hmm.
Don't leave anything off the table that once you say I do and you did, that now all of a sudden all the gory details come out as well. All those things should be addressed, and I'm sure you guys cover this in your marriage pieces as well as we do. But look, when you read this book, the book was really designed to help men, women, and children. It was for that young person that's out there that maybe has had sex outside of marriage. But let them know that God is a healer. And God is a God of second chances.
Oh, yeah.
The clock can restart.
Yes.
And we start when you say, God, I want to be whole. I will keep myself until the time that you bring the person from my life. So don't think that it's not possible to be kept. Look, I understand you had a taste of what it was. But if you want it better than what it was, it's for you to hold on.
Do it God's way.
And do it God's way. And I know it's hard. And he goes, oh, Pastor, you don't know how to. Yes, I do. I've been there, done.
And one thing I also say is, do we believe God is God or
what? Yeah.
The Holy Spirit is real.
Yeah, it is.
He has given us everything we need in His Word. Everything.
Yes.
That depends upon the quality of the relationship that you have as an individual as well.
With the Father. See, that's the problem.
And I like what you guys are doing, because you use the word transformation quite often and quite frequently in your communication. So transformation is important to you. So my question is this: do you think that identity crisis is an issue, and is it a lost art because of the fact that a lot of people don't necessarily know who they are? So if you don't know who you are, then how can you embrace yourself, and then how can you be real with yourself if the only thing that you know how to do is to become something that someone else wants you to be? How do you deal with that as well? Can you address that?
Yeah, I definitely think that is an issue. I think one reason why I wrote the book, I have some nieces and nephews, and of course they were always in my mind. I never birthed children. In fact, before I got married, I would say I'm mother to none, yet mother to all, because I was principal at a school. So all those kids were my babies, and I started a program. So anyway, but I think too many of us as Christ followers, we are in the world and we are of the world. We have forgotten that we are supposed to be the salt. We have forgotten that we are supposed to be the light. And because of the cultural expectations, because of what society says you should do as a single, many, even people that say they are Christians, have fallen for it. And I think many times romantic comedies are also to blame. They set up an image of what should be. And I often talk about in my sessions is that Jerry Maguire's line of "you complete me."
Oh, yes.
Nobody can do that for you. That's what has to be done from the inside out. And as much as we want to change somebody, we can't.
We cannot.
To change.
Yeah, I think that's what happens too, is that you made a point that people in society, even in Christendom, take their cues from movies and TVs, and somehow they think that stuff is real. It's so fake. There are elements of that movie, Jerry Maguire, that I like, but the reality is you just met her and now y'all in love after having physical contact. That's not love.
Correct.
And if you're taking your cues from there, you'll think that it's possible to do it the opposite way. Correct. Have the encounter and then back up and say, okay, let me get to know you. Oh, no. That's the wrong way. And that was one of the things, even when I was in my singleness, I said I wasn't, and I wasn't going to engage in that because God was working on me. So it was like I felt God was really working on me. He's like, that's not even an issue. And it wasn't even really an issue in the beginning stage. Life happens, things happens. But I said not doing that until I meet the one that God has for me. But a lot of people we've seen, men and women, they want to do the physical piece and sometimes don't even hardly know the person's name.
Correct.
And now you've built this connection, this soul tie, if you will. But you don't even know anything about the person. You don't know anything about their bloodline, what their parents, their grandparents did. I'm a big thing about what's in your bloodline. Because you need to know who you're hooking up to, what they bringing along. From grandmama to great grandmama to great. We just went through I had my family reunion, and I literally found out my lineage from the very first African that landed here in America down to me. And to me, it was amazing because now I'm looking at my bloodline to see, okay, wait, what? That was what? And I think that's important, even if you don't go that far back. But before you marry someone, you need to know what, like you said, what are they bringing to the table? What is their family bringing to the table? They could be dysfunctional, and you're marrying into that dysfunction.
Amen.
And I think going back to what Daryl said about identity, and I think that's where people really struggle, right? Depending on when you get married, you're still trying to find out who you are. And, and then crisis and circumstances have made your identity what it is. Like for me, it was nobody was going to get through that wall, and unless God really had to work on it. But I think identity is a difficult thing for people. And I've got a 25-year-old son, and I think every other day I'm trying to find out what his identity is. It's striking, but I think that's a great way to look at it. What is the identity of the person that's coming to talk to me? Who are they? What are they? What makes them tick? And I think what we have to do sometimes is what makes them irritable. We don't ask hard questions.
Yeah.
What really sends you off? What really pushes you over the edge? I'll never forget. My pastor shared this story enough that I've got it memorized. But he had a sister who was dating a man in the military, and the young man came to his house. Mom had a discerning spirit, and said, that young man's not right for you. And she wouldn't listen. She was out there bringing him a cup of coffee, I believe, and happened to step on his boot. The young man blew up. You stepped on my shine. All of a sudden, Mom calls her on the carpet, brings her into the room, and says, if that's the way he's going to be now, before you get married,
And in front of that.
and in front of everybody,
Right.
what do you think's going to happen when you say I do? Well, she didn't listen. She married the guy. And then sometime later, they get a phone call at the house. Mom and Dad, they're going in the middle of the night to extract her from the house and bring her back home, because he showed her exactly who he was.
Yes.
But we were so caught up and enamored what we saw here, but we didn't listen, and we didn't listen to our heart, and we get blinded by it. And his identity was pretty clear.
Yeah.
People show you
Who they are. That's one of my favorite quotes by Maya Angelou. It's like, when someone shows you who they are, please believe them. It's the very first time. Believe them. They're showing you, this is who I am. I'm a person that has a lot of anger. I'm a person that's very volatile and angry. I'm a person that doesn't know how to have self-control of my bodily parts. Need I say more? People will show you themselves if you listen and if you look. But see, it takes a little time. If you're running into a day one and you haven't had time, I used to tell singles, vet them, meaning take them around the people you know.
Exactly.
They're going to give you an honest, if they love you, they're going to give you an honest assessment.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not, they're going to tell you. And see how that person interacts with your family, with your friends. That tells you a lot as well.
I talk about that in boundaries. That's the accountability partner aspect of it. And the thing about it, God if we are his, he's going to talk to us.
Yes.
And 9 times out of 10, when things go sour, we always hear, well, I saw this, but I thought I could.
Mhm.
I saw that happen, but, the red flags are always there.
Yes, they are.
Always there.
I'll give you an example, Daryl, really quick. My son and I, my son calls me and he wants to take me. He's taking me to a football game for Father's Day, and on the drive down, it's about an hour and a half ride to the stadium. And I said, well, how are things going with your girlfriend? And he starts to tell me what's going on, and he tells me everything that was going wrong. I said, look, I'm glad we're in the car by ourselves. Let me tell you the truth. You need to leave. You need to cut the cord. And he said, everything's, yeah, Dad, you're right. But does that mean I have to give back my Apple Watch that she gave me? I said, yes. I said, cut the cord means giving it all back.
Give it back.
No, just give it back, mail it back, do whatever you got.
Yes.
A couple weeks later, I called him and I said, so Matt, how'd it go? He goes, it was hard, but you were right. It was the best thing I ever did. And I'm really grateful that he made that call. And I'm glad that, that took a lot for him, but I knew and he knew it was the best decision he ever made.
And we've got to make sure we are not desperate.
Yes.
So many single people are so scared they're going to be alone all their lives. They take the first thing coming.
Especially women. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah.
Men have what? They have a lot of opportunity. Let's just be real, right? It's a lot more women per se than men. So they can be desperate. I'm not saying they can't, but I'm a woman. Let me be clear. So from a woman's perspective, being a woman all my life and being around women, these are things I have observed, because when you're desperate, you're going to get probably the worst pickings you ever thought, because you're not going to be necessarily making the right decisions, because you're not going to have clarity. You're not going to be clear in your thinking. You just be like, I just want somebody. If you want somebody, you can get just somebody.
Yep.
There's a lot of somebodies out there.
Dr. Paula, how did you maintain your standards being a single woman and then also being a virgin all those years? I know there was a lot of pressure. There was probably a lot of influence and maybe temptations and things of that nature, because of the fact that life itself does not necessarily are void of those things. When you make a decision that you're going to do things God's way, when you make a decision that you're going to do things God's way, then the heat is on, the pressure is on, game on. So how did you navigate through those situations, and then the level of your commitment and the standard? How did you maintain it all?
It wasn't always easy. I share a story in the memoir of my first experience in college. We started off with a group of people at a guy's house, and then everybody left, and I was there by myself. And the guy started kissing me, etc. And then I really believe it was the Lord that made him stop. He jumped up and said, you got to go, Paula, go home. Mm-hmm. And I think he honored the sentiment of my heart. He knew my desire, so I praise God for that. So I wasn't perfect. But after that experience, I realized that, first of all, my priorities were not right. I needed to get in alignment with the Lord. I felt that I needed to get into His Word more, to read more of the Bible. Growing up in the church, literally all my life, in utero.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the womb, me too.
Yes, in the womb. It's really all I knew. However, I think everyone, especially when you accept Christ at a young age, I accepted the Lord at the age of 12. And just naturally, the natural course of life is you start to question your parents' values. You start to question, well, why am I doing this? And after that incident and a couple others that I share in the book, I really felt like, okay, Lord, I want to be a Christ follower. I want to be your disciple, and I'm going to do it right. I'm going to get on the straight and narrow. So that was, first of all, the part that I needed to do. Then the Lord, through His Word, really started to show me the importance of filtering everything. Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, that talks about the things we should think on, whatever is good, whatever is pure. I really had to take that to heart. I remember being in the college dorm, listening to the Midnight Storm, boo-hooing. And I was like, wait, this is so stupid. Listen to the words you're taking into your spirit. And I remember back then, me and Mrs. Jones was really big. And I had an epiphany one day that, oh my God, that's talking about adultery. So I realized I really needed to start filtering what I took in through my spirit. So I monitored what I'd listened to. I just couldn't listen to anything. I certainly couldn't watch everything. I don't watch rated R movies. The images stay with me too long. In the book, I share about seeing an image in my early 20s that to this day is still there. And it was a matter of seconds that I saw something on TV and quickly turned the channel. So for me, that what I take into my spirit that way was really important. Again, I talked about accountability partners. I ran every guy through my family. My father,
That's good. Even Pastor John?
Oh!
Oh no, I ran the gauntlet. Oh no.
Oh my goodness. We
ran.
set up a meeting with my parents
Oh yeah.
to go over what his plan was. He literally brought
I literally had a notebook, and I had a printout. I actually had a data presentation.
in triplicate.
I had a copy from my father-in-law. I went over everything. I
Had his financial.
That's cool.
everything. I said I got one shot, and I got one shot to do it right, and I was going to do it right the second time, and I presented myself. I mean, sometimes like I said, he was a superintendent. He saw me there as an elder, but he didn't know me as an individual or a man. I think it was more so now to present myself. Look, I am about to marry your first child, your daughter, and she made a commitment that I am looking to honor. And in doing that, if she made that commitment, I also want to show you that I'm worthy of that. And
it wasn't really even about him.
No.
I had fallen into a pattern where I was chasing after guys, and there truly was a season in my life when I was doing that. But in this case,
No.
I really wasn't doing that.
I was the chasing. She was just, the chaser.
But my parents didn't believe me.
Yeah.
Paula, no man wants a guy tracking him down.
Right,
I kept
right.
saying, but it's not me.
Yes,
I
yes.
had to do it one-on-one with my mother-in-law. And I can tell you, we were sitting in the kitchen. I was sitting in a chair. She was sitting there. And I had to go face-to-face, toe-to-toe, and tell it straight up. I said, it's not your daughter. I know what you're saying. But I said, once I make up my mind, I'm locked in, and it was done. But, Daryl, to answer your question, let me put my pastor's hat on for just a minute to answer that question you said about her commitment and her standard.
Sure.
Look, my wife is the firstborn child. And at first, she has that firstborn child syndrome of, wanting to please her father.
Very much
But it was more so about pleasing her spiritual father, her Abba father. And that's the standard that she took. And that's the standard that was put in her. And that's the standard she lived out in front of everybody. And so that's why that standard was able to be held, because she was taught it, but then she believed it, and then she lived it. So as a pastor, I use her as a model because it can be done.
Oh yes.
And it was done. And that's why this book is so important to every woman, every man that will read it. Because books, I've taught.
Yes.
That standard was God's standard. It wasn't any other man. It wasn't my standard. It wasn't her standard. What she was living up to was what the Bible said.
Amen.
The marriage bed should be undefiled.
That's right.
It should be this. When you should cleave and leave. All that stuff that she was taught, she was ready to do. But that's why that standard was there. People say, "Oh, you set a high standard." No, she set a godly standard.
Amen.
And I think that's what people need to understand.
I think that is so important. This conversation is so great.
It is.
It's like I really don't want to let you two go we definitely have to stay in touch. But I truly understand when you say boundaries, especially, you know, those of us that are in a older age bracket. You know, it's just like, okay, you still have to have boundaries. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you know, whether you're 39, 49, 59, whatever the case may be, you still have to, you should be anyway, representing the Father, you know, making him, like you said, in a way proud of you, that you're saying, this is my standard, this is what I'm going to do. Even when I'm confronted with different, you know, challenges or issues, we're going to get over it. I used to tell ladies, if you're having problems with your flesh, stay in the house. That was just practical. Just stay in the house, man. And leave the TV out. Just stay in the house. I'm going to leave it at that. And they would just look at me like, that's what you need to do.
Leave the romance channel alone that night.
Some things you just
throw the cable out. Throw the cable out, right?
Some things you just have to say, I'm not. Yes. Right. Some things you just can't do. Some places you just can't go. I'm a very visual person because I'm a creative person. I'm an author as well. And so I have to be very careful what I see and what I hear. And that's just because I'm a creative. I have a huge imagination. So, but in general, all of us need to be very careful of what we see and what we hear. And I think if women and men, but I'm specifically talking to the women of God, if you set the boundaries for yourself, let God work on you. Let him heal you. Let him deal with you. Let him tell you who you really are, so you can be authentically you. Amen. Then you'll be in a better position to be a wife. Because being a wife is a myriad of hats. Like, you have a lot of different hats that we didn't get a chance to talk about. Youth pastor, like you said, retired principal, founder of King's Kid Community. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. And adjunct professor at graduate school. You was like that. Another interview time. Oh my God. Yeah, we might have to do a part 2. You're a Symbis coach. And also the name of your company before we start to wrap this up, Dr. P and Me. Just tell us really quick what that stands for, Dr. P and Me.
Dr. P and Me, I really want people to know that you are not alone in this process. In fact, one of the programs that I run is called Yana. You are not alone, which actually means God is gracious.
Yes.
It actually means God is gracious. So I want to walk alongside people as they journey through life, especially in the area of relationships. So pre, during, and after, we cover it all. But my heart is for singles because I was single for so long. So yeah, I pray people will connect with us. I have a poem that is in the book. Do I have time?
Sure.
Read that. This is a poem that I wrote called Boundaries. Boundaries in relationship, a guide to remain celibate. A journey through love where no one should ever hesitate. To set the limits protects your heart. A path of self-discovery, perhaps a fresh start. A time to reflect, to understand what's true. A time to find peace in all that you do. To recognize the limits, to know what you need, and to stay within the lines where true love can succeed. It's not always easy to stay on course with temptations and desires that could cause a divorce. From the principles, the values that you hold so dear, but with strong boundaries, your love will remain sincere. So hold on tight to the path you have chosen and never let go of the love that's not broken. For with strong boundaries, your heart will remain pure and your love will flourish forever to endure. So trust in yourself. Trust in God's love and never compromise the blessings from above. For with strong boundaries, your love will shine bright, a beacon of hope in a world of darkness at night.
That is beautiful. And I think that's a good way to end this episode. Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful. And that's in the Boundaries book or the other book?
In the Boundaries book.
Okay, in the Boundaries book. That is beautiful.
Where can the audience actually pick up your book?
So you can go right to my website. It's available there, but it's also available in bookstores everywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Awesome.
Okay.
Now,
Very good.
this subscribe, what would they be subscribing to with this link?
I do a weekly newsletter that talks about boundaries in every facet of our life. So I talk about work relationships, married relationships, singlehood, and it's tips, quotes. Oftentimes, I will often recommend other resources that I believe will be helpful to you. So it comes out on Thursdays, and it's very short, probably no more than 500, 600 words in total. So it's at most a 2-minute read. Correct. So I invite you to click on the link and to join me. I would love for you to be a part of our family.
And also, we want to make sure, Pastor, that we focus on the website for your church. Just tell us really quickly where you're located, because we're in Georgia and you're in...
So we are in Beacon, New York, where if anybody knows where the U.S. Military Academy is, we're about 20 minutes away from there. Just kind of give everybody a landmark. From West Point, New York, where the Military Academy is. We are Family Transformation Church. We are transforming families one person at a time.
Great.
Lord really changed a lot of things. We really deal with the broken and trying to, and we know if we can get the family back.
Yes.
And the family, I just got done doing a series called We Are the Church. The church isn't the building. The church is your home. The church is where your family is and you congregate. And if the father can be the head of the household, or if you're a single mom, if you can be that guiding light for your children, and you can bring them together, and they can come under God's umbrella, you can see great healing and a great manifestation that if you just follow his words, you can see a life transformed.
Amen.
That's great.
Well, that is great. Again, we are so appreciative for you joining us. And again, our topic was receiving the promise in God's timing. That could go across different barriers, but in particular, we're talking about really trying to help minister to single ladies. And of course, men are included, but women, my heart, what I've seen being a woman, I know, listen, you can't fool another woman. If something going on, we got the radar. So I'm so about really finding ways to connect women and men, of course, with the truth, because that's the name of our podcast, Truth for Daily Living. So again, thank you both so much. Please, let's stay in touch. Let me again put up your website there, Dr. Paula, and again for the church, if you're in the New York area, please let's stay in touch. Stay in touch with us, and we'll be talking soon. You wanted to say anything before we release them?
Yes, real quick. Pastor John, thank you for joining us. I appreciate what you're doing, and I know that you're doing a tremendous work, and I like the word transformation. And also like the word that the statement that you made, changing changing families one person at a time. So in order to change families one person at a time, it sounds like you're real strong on discipleship. Discipleship is the foundation of converting a people, because that's what Jesus did. He found his disciples, he raised them up, and he released them and told them to go make disciples. And if you don't spend that time making disciples, then you're not spending time in the right areas, and that's how you're going to grow the church, and the church is going to be converted into becoming true believers. You got to be born again.
That's his ministry hat talking. His ministry hat, yes.
You don't take the hat off just because you're in Walmart.
Listen, you're right. Yeah. It's in him. That's for sure. I mean, he would preach to a lamppost if he can get it saved, because that's just in him. I mean, it is. That's one of the things I love about him. But at any rate, we're going to. Okay, go ahead.
It's not I know the time is winding up, but I just want to be where the Lord leads me. And is it all right if we pray before we close?
Sure.
Yes.
Let me just end the other podcast, so you can go ahead, but I'm going to end this one. So I may step out, but I just want to end this one because this one is winding down. Okay, so go ahead. Feel free.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this couple.
We thank you for joining.